You've probably noticed how you tend to choose what feels familiar, whether it's the same seat at the dinner table, the same route to work, or the same type of people you gravitate towards. It's not because those things are necessarily better, they're just known. Your mind is constantly seeking comfort in what it can predict. This is the familiarity trap. It operates in silence, guiding you toward routines, patterns, and choices that feel safe, not because they are good, but because they are familiar. When something new appears, your mind questions it, hesitates, sometimes even rejects it, just because it's different. Even when the new holds promise, the old holds power. This bias is rooted in your brain's deep desire for certainty. The world is complex, uncertain, sometimes threatening, and the mind wants to make sense of it without too much effort. Familiar things don't require much thought. They've been processed before, cataloged, filed away. So when faced with something unfamiliar, your mind flags it, not necessarily because it's dangerous, but because it demands attention, and attention costs energy. Familiarity saves that energy. The trap is in the illusion of preference. You believe you prefer certain things because they're better suited for you, but often, you prefer them because you've seen them more often, heard them more frequently, or experienced them repeatedly. This is why songs on the radio grow on you, why brands become favorites, why traditions stick. Repetition builds comfort, and comfort builds attachment. But this comfort comes at a cost. The familiarity trap limits exploration. It shrinks your world into what you've already seen, what you've already known. It prevents you from reaching for the unknown, for possibilities that lie just outside your routine. It's not that the unfamiliar is bad, it's just untested. Yet, the trap makes you equate untested with unsafe. As you begin to settle into rest, think about how many times today you've chosen something simply because it was familiar. Not because it was the best, not because it was the right thing, but just because it was the known path. Let your mind gently explore this idea, without judgment, without force. Notice how the familiar wraps around you like a blanket, comforting. Yes, but also limiting. Feel how your thoughts slow as you recognize this pattern in yourself. The familiarity trap doesn't need to be broken tonight, just noticed. Let that awareness be enough. Let the quiet repetition of this moment feel familiar, and let it carry you softly into sleep. Confirmation bias, seeing what you want to see. There's something subtle, yet powerful, that shapes how you see the world. Confirmation bias. It's not about what is true, but what you believe is true. Your mind doesn't always seek facts. It seeks support for what it already thinks. When you come across information, your brain filters it. If it fits your beliefs, you accept it, sometimes without question. If it doesn't, you doubt it. You question the source. You look for flaws. This isn't conscious. It's automatic. A silent editor in your mind, trimming reality to fit the story you already hold. This bias shapes conversations, relationships, even the way you remember events. Think about a time when you believed someone didn't like you. Every small gesture, every neutral word, started to look like proof. A missed text felt like rejection. A short reply seemed cold. Even if none of it was true, your mind made it fit the belief. It's not that you lied to yourself. It's that your mind protects its patterns. Beliefs are mental shortcuts, and confirmation bias helps keep them intact. It happens in the small things, like the opinions you agree with on social media, or the way you watch the news. You notice the facts that align with your side. You scroll past the ones that don't. Not because you're unwilling to see the truth, but because seeing something different feels uncomfortable. It creates tension inside, a dissonance your mind wants to resolve. And it resolves it by leaning into what feels familiar, what feels safe, what confirms. This bias also affects how you grow. When you believe you're bad at something, you notice every mistake, every failure, and those moments become proof. You stop seeing progress because your mind is focused on failure. It's not that progress isn't there. It's just invisible through the lens of bias. As you lie quietly now, Let your mind drift through the places where you've seen what you wanted to see, not in judgment, but in gentle curiosity. The thoughts you've held tightly, the opinions you've defended. How many of them grew stronger because you looked for support and ignored the rest? Let this thought soften, without urgency. Let it float, like a small ripple across still water. Your mind doesn't need to change tonight. It just needs to see, to rest in the idea that not everything it believes is fixed, that there's space for something new. And in that space, let your thoughts slow, let the tension ease, and let sleep take you deeper. The spotlight effect. You think everyone's watching you. There's a quiet pressure that many people carry without even realizing it. The feeling that they're constantly being watched, judged, or evaluated. This is the spotlight effect. Your mind tells you that your mistakes, your appearance, your words are all under scrutiny, as if a light is always shining on you. But here's the truth. Most people are too focused on themselves to notice the tiny things you obsess over. The world is not watching you as closely as you think. This bias comes from your own heightened awareness of yourself, because you are at the center of your own thoughts. You assume you are also at the center of everyone else's, but you're not. Everyone else is busy living their own stories, worrying about their own lives, caught in their own mental spotlight. You feel embarrassed when you trip, when you forget a name, or when you were something slightly out of place, believing that these small moments are being etched into others' memories. Yet, more often than not, those moments are barely noticed and quickly forgotten. Think back to a time when you thought you stood out for the wrong reason. Maybe you said something awkward or looked different than you wanted. How long did you hold on to that feeling? How many times did you replay it, imagining how others must have seen you? But ask yourself, how often do you remember similar things about others? Rarely, if ever. This is the spotlight effect. It magnifies your actions, making you feel exposed, when in reality, you are just another passing figure in someone else's day. As you lie here now, think about how heavy that imaginary spotlight can feel, and how exhausting it is to live under its glow. What if, just for tonight, you let it dim? Let go of the belief that every move is being watched. Allow yourself to blend into the quiet. There is freedom in realizing that no one is thinking about you as much as you think they are. There is peace in knowing you are not on display. Let that peace settle in your body, in your chest, in your mind. Let your thoughts slow, and rest in the calm of being unseen, unnoticed, and safe. Let sleep come, without the weight of the spotlight. Anchoring bias, the first idea that sticks. The first piece of information you hear often becomes the anchor that shapes how you think about everything else. This is anchoring bias, the mental shortcut where your mind grabs onto the first number, fact, or idea, and then uses it as a reference for all that follows. Even when new information comes in, it's compared against that original anchor, whether it makes sense or not. Think about when you hear a price, maybe for a product or service. That first number, whether high or low, becomes your point of comparison. If it's high, everything else seems cheaper. If it's low, everything else feels expensive. The anchor doesn't need to be accurate. It just needs to be first. And once it's set, it's hard to shake. Your decisions, your judgments, your understanding, all bend around it. Anchoring isn't limited to numbers. It affects how you view people too. First impressions become anchors. The first thing you learn about someone, whether it's true or just a rumor, colors everything you notice later. You may overlook their strengths if the first impression was negative, or excuse their flaws if it was positive. Anchors hold strong, even when they shouldn't. Your mind prefers the ease of sticking with the first idea rather than recalibrating with every new detail. It feels safer, simpler, but it can lead you to make choices that aren't fully informed. You might cling to an outdated belief because it was the first one that felt right. You might resist new possibilities because they don't fit the shape of your initial thoughts. As you relax into the quiet now, think about the anchors you've held onto today. The first opinions, The first prices, the first ideas. How many of them still weigh on your mind? Let yourself gently notice them, without needing to change anything. Just see them. Feel how your thoughts start to soften, how the need to hold on to that first thought begins to fade. You don't need to fix it or correct it. Just rest in the awareness that your mind, like all minds, holds on. And in that awareness, find a little space, a little stillness. Let go of the anchor for tonight, and let yourself drift. The halo effect, when one good trait blinds you. Sometimes, you meet someone, or see something, and one good trait shines so brightly that it blinds you to the rest. This is the halo effect. It's a bias that colors your judgment. When someone is attractive, you might assume they're also kind, intelligent, or talented. When a person is confident, you may believe they're competent too. One positive quality spills over, affecting how you see everything else about them. The mind loves shortcuts. It's easier to take one noticeable thing and build a full picture around it, rather than evaluate each part on its own. But the halo effect creates illusions. It makes you trust people more than you should. It makes you overlook flaws, ignore warning signs, and give more credit than is deserved. And it works in reverse too. A single negative trait can darken your view, making you blind to the good. Think about someone you admire. What was the first thing you liked about them? Did that one thing lead you to believe other things too? Maybe they seemed warm, so you assumed they were trustworthy. Maybe they spoke well, so you thought they were wise. Over time, those assumptions may have turned into beliefs. The halo effect is subtle, but it shapes how you treat others, how you listen, how you judge. And it doesn't just affect people. It influences how you see brands, ideas, even yourself. One success can make you feel invincible. One failure can make you feel worthless. The mind likes simplicity, but reality is layered. As you breathe softly now, let your thoughts rest on the times you've seen someone through a halo. Not in guilt, just in quiet recognition. The mind, in its need for ease, paints with broad strokes. But tonight, you don't need to judge, or analyze, or decide. Just let the glow of that halo fade into the calm of this moment. Let your mind settle, free from the need to label. And as the layers of thought gently fall away, allow yourself to sink deeper into rest, where no halos are needed. Just quiet, just peace, just sleep. Recency bias, the power of what just happened. Your mind often gives more weight to the most recent events, as if what just happened is somehow more important, more real, or more true than everything before it. This is recency bias, the tendency to let the latest experience overshadow the rest, no matter how much the past should matter. When you think about a person, a project, or even yourself, what happened last often feels like it defines the whole story. You could have a long stretch of good days, but one bad moment can leave you feeling like everything is falling apart. The last conversation, the last mistake, the last compliment, it lingers, coloring your mood and thoughts. Your mind doesn't balance time equally. It focuses on what's fresh, because the recent is easier to recall, easier to feel. But the recent isn't always the most important. This bias affects how you make decisions. If something went well just now, you might overestimate your chances of future success. If something went wrong, you might hesitate, fearing that pattern will repeat. You judge the whole movie by the final scene, the whole journey by the last step. Recency creates a tunnel, narrowing your view. Think about how you felt today. Was it shaped more by what happened early on, or by what happened just before now? One sharp word, one kind smile, those final moments can lift or drag your entire sense of the day. But if you look deeper, there's more than the recent. There's a fuller picture. As you lie in stillness now, let your mind gently open to the idea that not everything depends on the last thing. The story of your day, your life, is made of many moments, not just the ones that came last. Let those earlier, quieter parts of your experience come into focus. The warmth of the morning light, the steady rhythm of your breath through the hours. Let recency soften, and let balance return. No single moment defines you tonight. Feel the weight of the recent lift. And as it does, allow yourself to sink into the calm where time evens out, where the past and present blend, and rest becomes easy. The Endowment Effect. Why you overvalue what's yours. There's a strange thing your mind does when something becomes yours. It suddenly feels more valuable, more important, more meaningful, simply because it's in your possession. This is the Endowment Effect. Ownership changes perception. A simple object, once claimed, becomes harder to give up, even if someone else sees it as ordinary. To you, it feels special. And the same applies to ideas, habits, and relationships. You might notice this when you try to sell something you own. You ask for more than others are willing to pay, not because it's worth more, but because it's yours. Letting go feels like losing part of yourself. The Endowment Effect isn't just about physical things. It's about identity. What you own, what you've chosen, becomes part of your story. And giving it up feels like giving up a piece of who you are. This bias can keep you holding on too long. To old clothes, old beliefs, old dreams that no longer serve you. Because they've been yours, they feel harder to release. You overvalue them. Not because they're useful or true, but because they've stayed with you. The mind resists change when it means giving up what's familiar. It also shapes how you see others. You might value your own ideas over someone else's, simply because they came from you. You protect your choices, your side of the story, because they're yours. The Endowment Effect keeps you close to what you know, even when something better waits beyond. As you settle deeper now, think about the things you've held tightly, just because they're yours, not with judgment, but with a gentle curiosity. What have you kept? Not because you need it, but because it's been part of you. Let your mind feel the weight of that ownership, and then imagine what it might feel like to set it down, just for a moment. The need to hold on can rest too. Let go of the grip, and feel the ease that follows. Tonight, you own nothing but the quiet, and the calm, and the deepening breath. Let that be enough. Status quo bias, the fear of change. There's comfort in things staying the same. Even when change could bring something better, your mind often prefers the familiar path. This is status quo bias, the tendency to favor what is, over what could be. Change is uncertain, unpredictable. The current way feels safer, not because it is, but because you know it. You've walked it before. You've survived it. Your mind craves stability, especially in a world that often feels chaotic. The known, even if flawed, provides a sense of control. The unknown, no matter how promising, threatens that control. Status quo bias tells you to stay, to wait, to hold, to keep what you have, to follow the routine, to resist the shift. It's not laziness. It's fear dressed as logic. Think about decisions you've delayed, choices you've avoided, not because you didn't want change, but because staying felt easier. Your job, your habits, your relationships, they become comfortable cages. And the door, though open, feels hard to step through. Change demands energy, courage, trust. The status quo asks for none of that. It just asks you to continue. This bias can keep you stuck. It can make you accept less than you deserve, just because it's familiar. It can make you blind to better paths, because those paths require stepping off the one you know. And it whispers that change is risky, that what you have is good enough, even when your heart says otherwise. As you rest now, let your mind wander through the spaces where you've chosen the familiar over the unknown. Feel the pull of the status quo, and let yourself notice it, without needing to resist or obey. Tonight, there's no need to choose, no need to change or stay the same. Just let the idea rest beside you, quietly. Let your body relax into the comfort of the now, knowing that tomorrow can hold choices, and tonight can hold peace. The status quo can wait. Sleep does not. Let yourself drift into stillness, where nothing needs to change. The sunk cost fallacy, throwing good after bad. There's a quiet trap that pulls you deeper the longer you stay. The sunk cost fallacy. It's the belief that because you've already invested time, energy, or money into something, you must keep going, even when it no longer serves you. The more you've given, the harder it is to walk away. Your mind tells you not to waste what you've already spent. But in truth, what's gone is gone. The past cannot be recovered, no matter how tightly you cling to it. You stay in a job that drains you, because you've been there for years. You remain in a relationship that no longer brings joy, because you've built a history. You continue projects, ideas, habits, not because they work, but because you've already started. The fallacy is in thinking the cost must be honored. But real cost is not what you've spent. It's what you continue to lose by staying. Your mind hates the idea of waste. It wants to believe that your efforts will pay off if you just keep going. It wants to believe that the pain, the struggle, the sacrifice will all mean something in the end. So you push on, adding more to what's already lost. Hoping, waiting. But the truth is simple. The past does not determine the future. Only the present does. Think gently about where you've held on too long. Not in shame, but in quiet reflection. What have you continued? Not because it's right, but because it's hard to stop. The time spent is behind you. The choice is in front of you. As you lie in stillness, feel the weight of that sunk cost ease. You don't have to fix it now. You don't have to decide. Just rest in the knowledge that you can release what no longer fits. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts soften. And let yourself drift, free from the need to hold on. Negativity bias. Why bad news feels so strong. Your mind is wired to notice danger, to remember pain, to react more strongly to the negative than the positive. This is negativity bias. It's why one harsh word can linger longer than 10 kind ones. Why bad news feels heavier, more urgent, more real. Evolution shaped this bias. In a world of threats, it kept you safe. Remembering what hurt helped you survive. But in today's world, this bias can weigh you down. Good things happen, but they fade quickly. Bad things echo. Your mind replays them, examines them, prepares for them. A small mistake overshadows a day of success. A single criticism dulls the glow of praise. Negativity grabs your attention and holds it, even when you want to let go. It shapes how you see yourself, others, the world. This bias doesn't mean you're pessimistic. It means you're human, but it can make joy feel distant, fleeting. It can make the present feel darker than it is. The mind's focus on what's wrong dims the light of what's right. As you settle now, think about today's moments. Notice how the negative clings, how the positive slips away, and let yourself gently bring those good moments back. A smile, a quiet success, a peaceful breath. Let them return, softly, without force. The negative doesn't need to be erased. It just needs balance. Let your body relax into the space where both can exist, where fear can rest and calm can rise. Let sleep come, not in denial, but in peace. The night holds no judgment, only stillness. Optimism bias, the illusion that it won't happen to you. There's a strange comfort in believing that the bad things in life are for others, not for you. This is optimism bias, the quiet assumption that, somehow, you will be spared. That accidents, failures, illnesses, losses, they're distant, unlikely, almost unreal. This belief isn't arrogance. It's a shield. It helps you move forward, make plans, take risks. It softens fear, makes the future seem bright. But optimism can be blind. It can make you overlook real risks, avoid hard truths, and delay important choices. You think, it won't happen to me, and so you don't prepare. You think, things will work out, and so you don't change course. The bias gives hope, but it also gives illusion. This bias lives in small moments, ignoring the warning signs, skipping the checkup, trusting that luck is on your side. It lives in bigger ways too, in how you imagine your life, how you see your place in the world. Optimism feels good, but it can leave you vulnerable. As you rest now, feel how this belief lives in you. Where have you hoped? Not out of strength, but out of habit. Let that awareness settle gently. Optimism doesn't have to leave. It just needs truth beside it. Let yourself feel both, the comfort of hope and the clarity of seeing things as they are. Let your breath steady, your mind ease, and your body sink into the safety of this moment. You are not promised anything, but you are held by the now. Let that be enough. Choice supportive bias, defending your decisions. After you make a choice, your mind begins to protect it. This is choice supportive bias, the tendency to see your decisions as better than they might be, simply because they're yours. You downplay the flaws of what you chose, and you exaggerate the problems with what you didn't. Your mind wants to believe it made the right call. It wants peace, not regret. This bias helps you feel good about your choices, even when outcomes are mixed. You justify. You explain. You tell yourself it was the best you could do. This protects your sense of self, but it can also blind you. It can make you ignore better options, avoid learning from mistakes, and stay loyal to decisions that no longer serve you. You might see this in small ways, choosing a product, defending it, even if it disappoints, or in bigger ways, choosing a path in life and holding on to it, even as doubts grow. The bias tells you to stand by your choice, because admitting otherwise feels like failure. But choices are not fixed. They can evolve. You are allowed to change. As you rest now, think gently about the decisions you've defended, not to judge them, but to see them. Let yourself feel the freedom in knowing that you don't have to be right. You just have to be real. Let your body soften into the truth that choices can shift. And that's okay. Let your breath slow, your thoughts quiet, and your heart rest. The night doesn't ask for defense, only peace. Self-serving bias. When success is yours but failure isn't. Your mind has a quiet habit of protecting your self-esteem. It's called the self-serving bias, the tendency to claim credit for success, but blame failure on something or someone else. When things go well, it's because of your hard work, your talent, your choices. But when things go wrong, it's bad luck, unfairness, or someone else's mistake. This isn't always conscious. It's a subtle shift in how you see yourself in the world. You may notice this after a good day, when achievements feel like proof of your worth. You deserve the praise, the reward, the recognition, and maybe you do. But then comes the harder day, the mistake, the disappointment. The mind steps in to protect. It wasn't my fault. I couldn't help it. This bias doesn't just shield you from blame, it shields you from growth. Because when you can't own the failure, you can't fully learn from it. It happens in relationships too. When conflict arises, you see your intentions as pure, your actions as justified. But the other person? They're at fault. They misunderstood. They overreacted. You see your own side clearly, but theirs is clouded. Self-serving bias bends reality, just enough to keep your image of yourself intact. But this protection comes with a cost. It can keep you from honest reflection, from seeing your part in the whole. It can make you feel isolated, misunderstood, because you can't see how you contributed. And yet, deep down, part of you knows that the truth is more balanced, more complex. As you lie here now, let yourself gently notice where this bias may live in you. Not to accuse, not to judge, but to see, to soften. Success and failure are not just yours, or just the world's. They are shared, shaped by many hands. Let your mind rest in that understanding. You don't have to carry all the credit, nor all the blame. Let your breath deepen. Let the need to defend ease. And in that quiet space, let sleep come. Hindsight bias. You knew it all along. After something happens, it's easy to look back and think, I knew it would turn out this way. This is hindsight bias, the feeling that events were predictable, obvious, even inevitable, once you know the outcome. But the truth is, before it happened, you didn't know. You might have guessed, hoped, or feared, but certainty, that only comes after. Your mind reshapes the past to make sense of the present. It wants order, patterns, explanations. So it tells you that you saw it coming, that the signs were there. It smooths over doubt, forgets uncertainty, and fills in the gaps. This bias creates the illusion of foresight, making you believe you could have acted differently, avoided mistakes, or prepared better. But life is not so clear when you're living it. Hindsight bias can bring guilt. I should have known. Why didn't I see it? But it can also bring false confidence. Next time, I'll know for sure. It makes the future seem more predictable than it is. But life, in truth, is messy, uncertain, full of possibilities. As you settle into rest, think gently about a moment you've looked back on with hindsight. Feel how your mind has reshaped it, not to deceive, but to understand. Let go of the need to have known. Let go of the illusion that you should have seen it all. You didn't, and that's okay. Let your breath soften. Let the past rest. Let the future wait. Tonight, there is only now. And now, you are safe to sleep. Availability heuristic. What's easy to recall feels true. Some thoughts rise quickly, without effort. They feel vivid, sharp, immediate, and your mind, trusting that ease, assumes they must be true. This is the availability heuristic, a mental shortcut where what's easiest to remember feels most real, most likely. If something comes to mind quickly, you believe it happens often. If a story is vivid, you believe it's common. But memory is not truth. It's just what lingers. You hear about a plane crash, and suddenly flying feels dangerous. You see news of a crime, and the world feels unsafe. The events are rare, but because they're memorable, they feel frequent. Your mind doesn't measure with numbers, it measures with ease. And ease is not accuracy. This bias shapes your fears, your hopes, your sense of the world. It makes risks seem larger, dangers closer. It also makes joys feel possible. When you see others succeed, their stories stay with you, and hope feels near. But both fear and hope, shaped by availability, can lead you astray. As you lie here now, notice what thoughts rise first. Are they memories of worry or of peace? Are they sharp moments or soft ones? Let yourself gently question whether what feels real is truly so. Let the vivid settle. Let the distant rise. Not every thought needs to guide you tonight. Let your breath guide you instead. Let the ease of remembering fade into the ease of resting. Let the mind quiet, and let sleep come. Illusory superiority. You think you're better than average. Most people believe they're above average. Smarter, kinder, more capable. This is illusory superiority, the bias that makes you see yourself in a better light than others. It's comforting to think you stand out, that you're not like the rest. It protects your self-worth, fuels your confidence, but it also distorts reality. You see your own thoughts, your intentions, your efforts. With others, you only see actions. So when they fail, you notice. When you fail, you explain. You believe your reasons are better, your choices more justified. This bias creates distance between you and them, between your truth and theirs. It can lead to frustration. Why can't they see what I see? It can lead to judgment. They're not trying hard enough. But it also leads to pressure, the need to always live up to this better self-image, to always be more, do more, prove more. As you rest now, think softly about how you see yourself. Where do you feel superior? Where do you feel separate? Let that image ease. You are not less, but you are not more either. You are human, in all the ways others are. Let that bring relief. Let the need to shine dim for the night. Let your breath find its rhythm. Let yourself be just as you are. No better, no worse. Let sleep find you here, in the quiet truth of enough. Dunning-Kruger Effect. The less you know, the more you think you do. There's a strange twist in how knowledge works. The less you truly know about something, the more confident you might feel in your understanding. This is called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, a bias that tricks the mind into overestimating its abilities when competence is low. When you lack the depth to see the full picture, the gaps in your understanding remain invisible to you. And because you can't see what you don't know, You believe you know more than you actually do. It's not arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about the mind trying to make sense of complexity in simple terms. When you begin learning something new, you catch the basics quickly. Those basics give you a sense of control, a feeling that you understand. But beneath the surface, there's more layers of detail, nuance, contradictions, exceptions, and those only become visible as you dive deeper. Ironically, the more skilled you become, the more you start to realize how much you still don't know. True experts often speak with caution, with humility, because they've seen the depth of the subject. They know the edges, the gray areas, but those just starting out see a clear, simple version. The Dunning-Kruger effect lives in that space, where confidence is high, but knowledge is shallow. Think about something you once believed you understood completely. Maybe a task, a role, a relationship. You felt sure, certain, but as time passed, as experience grew, you saw more. You realized how little you actually knew at the start. This is the natural journey of learning, but along the way, the bias can mislead you. It can make you dismiss advice, ignore feedback, or take risks without seeing the dangers. As you rest now, let your mind soften around the idea that certainty isn't always a sign of truth. Let yourself release the need to know everything. It's okay to not have all the answers. Let the quiet bring humility, not in weakness, but in openness. Let your thoughts slow. Let the layers of understanding rest where they are. Tonight, you don't need to be an expert in anything. You only need to be here, breathing, safe, and at ease. Let sleep come, carrying you gently beyond the need to know. False consensus effect. You think everyone agrees with you. It's easy to believe that your views, your values, your choices are shared by most people. This is the false consensus effect, a bias where your mind assumes that others think like you, feel like you, act like you. It creates a sense of belonging, of being right, of being part of something larger. But often, it's an illusion. The truth is, people are varied, different, unpredictable. They carry stories you don't see, beliefs you don't share. This bias grows from your need for social connection. If others agree with you, you feel safer. Your ideas feel valid. Your identity feels secure. So when someone disagrees, it feels jarring, uncomfortable. It challenges the quiet belief that you are in tune with the world. The mind responds by minimizing the difference, by assuming that the disagreement is rare, that most people still see things your way. But this assumption narrows your view. It makes it harder to understand others, to listen, to learn. It blinds you to diversity of thought, to the richness of different perspectives. And it can create frustration, even isolation, when the world doesn't mirror your beliefs. Think gently about a time when you assumed someone saw things the way you did, only to find out they didn't. How did that feel? Where did your mind go? Let that memory soften. Let yourself see that the world is not meant to reflect you. It's meant to challenge, to expand, to grow. As you rest now, let go of the need for consensus. You don't need everyone to agree. You don't need the world to align with you. Let your breath deepen into the quiet of difference, the peace of letting others be. And let sleep come, without the weight of needing to be understood. Mere exposure effect. The more you see it, the more you like it. There's a quiet force that shapes your preferences, not logic, not analysis, but repetition. This is the mere exposure effect. The tendency to develop a liking for things simply because you see them often. The first time you encounter something, it might feel neutral, even uncomfortable. But as you see it again and again, it becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes comfortable, and comfort becomes preference. This bias plays out in everyday life. The song you didn't care for at first grows on you. The person who seemed distant now feels like a friend. The place that felt strange now feels like home. It's not that these things changed. It's that your mind softened through repetition. Exposure reduces uncertainty. It lowers the guard. And as the unfamiliar becomes known, it becomes liked. Marketers understand this well. Brands, slogans, images shown repeatedly create a sense of trust, of preference, not because they're better, but because they're there. Your choices are often guided not by what's best, but by what's most familiar. Think about the things you've come to like over time. What was once strange, now loved. Let yourself see how exposure shaped your feelings. Let that awareness rest gently in your mind. As you lie here, know that you don't need to seek new or better. Sometimes, just being present, just staying, allows things to grow. Let your breath settle into the familiar rhythm of rest. Let the comfort of this moment deepen, and let sleep come, quietly, like something you've known all along. Framing effect. How words shape your choices. The way something is presented, the words, the context, the tone can change how you see it. This is the framing effect, a bias where your decisions are influenced not by the facts themselves, but by how those facts are framed. The same situation can feel different, simply because of the way it's described. A glass that's half full feels more positive than one that's half empty. A treatment with a 90% success rate feels safer than one with a 10% failure rate. Even though they're the same, your mind is sensitive to cues, to language, to subtle shifts in how information is given. It's not about the content, it's about the frame. This bias shapes not just decisions, but emotions. The frame sets the tone. It can create fear or hope, urgency or calm. And often, you don't notice. The mind processes the frame quickly, intuitively, without pause, but it shapes your world. Think about a time when your feelings changed, not because of new facts, but because of how those facts were shared. Let that memory sit with you gently. As you lie here now, feel how the frames around you can soften. You don't need to react, to decide, to judge. Let the frames fall away, and let the facts just be. Let your breath move without being framed, without being forced. Let the night hold you in its own quiet truth. And let sleep come, unshaped, unframed, free. Projection bias, thinking others feel like you. Your mind has a natural tendency to assume that other people think, feel, and react the way you do. This is known as projection bias, a quiet assumption that your emotional state, your preferences, your values, are shared by others around you. When you're happy, you think others must be seeing the world in a similar light. When you're anxious, you expect others to be just as concerned. This bias comes from your limited view. You only have access to your own mind, so you fill in the gaps with yourself. It happens in small ways, like choosing a gift for someone based on what you would like, not what they would, or assuming someone will react to news exactly how you would. It also happens in deeper ways, believing your struggles are universal. Your needs are obvious. Your way of thinking is normal. But people carry different histories, different experiences, different inner worlds. What feels right to you might feel strange to someone else. Projection bias can create misunderstandings. You may expect support where there is distance, or feel disappointment when others don't share your excitement or concern. It limits empathy, because true empathy means stepping outside yourself, not assuming sameness, but recognizing difference. Think about a time when you believed someone would understand you completely, only to realize they didn't. Was it because they couldn't, or because they saw things from a different place? Let yourself reflect gently on how often you might have projected your feelings onto others. Not from selfishness, but from the natural desire to connect. As you rest now, let this idea settle. You don't need to carry others' feelings, nor expect them to carry yours. Let there be space for you, for them, for differences. Let your breath move in its own rhythm, separate, yet shared with the quiet around you. Tonight, there's no need to assume, no need to project. Just be with yourself, fully, peacefully. Let sleep come, gently, as your own. The just world hypothesis, believing life is fair. There's a comforting belief many hold without question. The idea that the world is fundamentally fair. That good things happen to good people. and bad things happen to those who deserve it. This is known as the just world hypothesis, a bias that gives life a sense of order and justice. It makes suffering seem explainable, rewards seem earned, and misfortune seem avoidable. But this belief, while soothing, can distort reality. The world, in truth, is often unpredictable. Good people suffer. Bad people succeed. Kindness isn't always rewarded. Effort doesn't always lead to success. But the mind resists this chaos. It wants to believe in fairness because fairness makes life feel controllable. If you act rightly, you will be safe. If you follow the rules, you will be protected. This bias shows up in how we judge others. When someone falls on hard times, the mind searches for reasons. What did they do wrong? What choices led them there? Because if their pain can be explained, it can be avoided. But this can lead to blame, to a lack of compassion. It can make you distance yourself from those who suffer, as if their misfortune is proof of failure, not chance. Think softly now about how this belief lives in you. Where have you clung to fairness to make sense of things? Where have you struggled to accept that sometimes life just happens? Let that tension ease. You don't have to give up hope for justice, but you can rest in the truth that not everything is fair, and that's not your fault. Let your breath settle into this understanding. Let your thoughts drift away from judgment, away from order, into the quiet space of acceptance. Tonight, the world doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to be still. Let sleep come, gently, in the soft embrace of uncertainty. Actor-observer bias. Why you judge others more harshly. There's a divide in how you see your actions versus how you see others' actions. This is called the actor-observer bias. When you make a mistake, you tend to explain it through your circumstances, what happened around you, what pressures you faced, what you couldn't control. But when someone else makes a mistake, you often explain it through their character, their flaws, their choices, their nature. You're late because traffic was bad. They're late because they're careless. You snapped because you had a hard day. They snapped because they're rude. This bias protects your sense of self, making you feel understood, while others feel distant, even judged. It creates a gap between how you see yourself and how you see the people around you. The truth is, everyone lives in circumstances. Everyone has pressures, unseen by others, but you only feel your own directly. You only see others from the outside, and the mind fills in their story with assumptions. This makes empathy harder. It makes patience thinner. It keeps you from truly seeing the full picture of others' lives. Think gently about a time when you judged someone quickly, without knowing their side. Could their actions have come from a place you didn't see? Let that thought soften in you. Let yourself feel the space between judgment and understanding. You are not just your actions, and neither are they. As you rest now, let go of the need to explain, to analyze, to decide. Let your breath flow without reason. Let your thoughts slow without judgment. Tonight, you are both actor and observer, but neither role needs to be played. Let sleep come, without sides, without stories, only stillness. The bandwagon effect, following the crowd without knowing why. There's a quiet pull in seeing others do something, a natural urge to follow. This is the bandwagon effect, where the popularity of an idea or action makes it seem right, true, or necessary. When you see many people choosing something, you feel more inclined to choose it too, even if you don't fully understand it. The crowd creates comfort. Being part of the majority feels safe. Your mind is wired for connection. Being alone in thought or action can feel risky. So when others believe, buy, or behave a certain way, you're drawn to it. You think, if everyone else is doing it, there must be a good reason. But often, the reason is just the bandwagon itself. This bias affects trends, opinions, even moral choices. It makes you like what's liked, trust what's trusted, fear what's feared. But following the crowd can lead you away from your own values, your own sense of truth. The noise of many can drown out the quiet voice within. Think softly now about a time when you followed without questioning. not in shame, but in awareness. Let yourself feel the pull of the crowd and the strength it takes to stand apart. Let your mind settle into the peace of being your own. You don't need to follow tonight. You don't need to decide. Just rest in the stillness that comes when the crowd fades, and only your breath remains. Let sleep come, gently, as your own choice. The planning fallacy. Always underestimating time. Your mind often tricks you into believing that tasks will take less time than they actually do. This is known as the planning fallacy, a bias where you underestimate how long something will take, how much effort it will require, or how likely obstacles are to appear. You imagine the smooth path, the perfect conditions, the best version of yourself, and plan accordingly. But reality is rarely that kind. You might think, I can finish this project in a day, only to find yourself still working on it 2 days later. Or you believe a trip, an event, a life change will unfold just as you picture it, without delay, without complication. The mind tends to focus on what can go right, ignoring what might go wrong. It's not because you're unrealistic, it's because you want things to work out well. Optimism shapes your plans more than experience. This bias leads to stress, missed deadlines, and broken promises, not because you don't care, but because you didn't account for the full weight of time. You didn't leave space for fatigue, interruptions, or unexpected demands. Even when you've faced delays before, each new task feels like it will be different, easier, faster, smoother, but the pattern repeats. Think gently about the last time you underestimated. How did it feel when time slipped away? Let yourself reflect, not with frustration, but with understanding. Your mind isn't trying to deceive you. It's trying to keep you hopeful, trying to keep you moving. But tonight, you don't need to plan. You don't need to rush. Let the idea of time stretch out, soft and wide. Let your breath move slowly, without schedule, without expectation. The minutes will pass, not as a plan, but as a quiet flow. Let sleep come, unmeasured, in its own perfect time. The false memory bias, remembering things that never happened. Memory feels solid, like a recording of your life. But memory is not fixed. It shifts, distorts, and sometimes invents. This is the false memory bias, when you remember things that didn't happen, or remember them differently from how they were. Your mind fills in gaps, blends moments, and creates stories that feel true, but aren't. You might recall a conversation that never took place, a detail that was never there, or a feeling that doesn't quite match the moment. Over time, memories are reshaped by emotions, by what others say, by your current beliefs. The more you revisit a memory, the more it changes. It becomes a mix of fact, interpretation, and imagination. False memories aren't lies. They're the mind's way of making sense of the past. Your brain wants coherence, a smooth narrative, even if that means bending reality. It pulls from fragments, filling in blanks with what seems likely, with what fits. Think gently about a memory you've held tightly. Could it be softer, different, less certain than you thought? Let yourself wonder, not with doubt, but with curiosity. Memories don't need to be perfect. They only need to hold meaning. As you rest now, let your mind release the need for exactness. Let the past blur, just enough to bring peace. Let your breath anchor you in the present, where no memory needs to be recalled. Let sleep come, like a dream, soft, shifting, and free. The curse of knowledge, forgetting what it's like not to know. Once you learn something, it becomes difficult to imagine what it was like before you knew it. This is the curse of knowledge, a bias where you forget how hard it was to understand something before it was clear. You assume others see what you see, know what you know, and think like you think. But they don't. Their starting point is different. Their path to knowing is their own. This bias can make teaching, explaining, or empathizing harder. You skip steps. Use language that feels obvious to you, but confusing to others. You wonder why they don't get it, forgetting the time you took to get there yourself. It creates distance, a quiet frustration. a gap between minds. You may see this in conversations, when you expect someone to grasp your point quickly, or when you judge others for not knowing something you now find simple. But simplicity is learned, not given. The mind erases the struggle once it understands, leaving only the ease. Think softly about a time when you expected someone to know, but they didn't. How did you respond? Let that moment rest in you, not as guilt, but as a reminder. Knowing is a journey. Each person walks it differently. As you lie here now, let yourself step back into the place of not knowing. Let the pressure of understanding fade. Let your breath slow, without needing to grasp or explain. Tonight, knowledge can rest, and so can you. Let sleep come, free from expectation. Survivorship bias, learning from the winners and ignoring the lost. You often hear stories of success, those who made it, those who thrived, those who beat the odds. But what you don't see are the many who didn't. This is survivorship bias, the tendency to focus on those who survived a process, while ignoring those who failed, simply because their stories are less visible. You read about entrepreneurs who became millionaires, athletes who defied limits, artists who found fame, and you think, I can do that too. But the failures, the struggles, the unseen are missing from view, not because they didn't happen, but because they didn't survive to tell their story. The mind is drawn to what's visible, to what's celebrated, and forgets that success often hides a sea of loss behind it. This bias can lead to unrealistic expectations, to harsh self-judgment when your path doesn't look like theirs. It can make you believe that effort always leads to success, that talent always wins. But the truth is, chance, timing, support all play a role, and many who try, fall. Think gently now about the stories you've admired. Let yourself honor not just the winners, but those who tried and were not seen. Let yourself be kind to your own journey, whether it shines or struggles. As you rest now, let go of the need to compare, to measure. Let your breath hold you, just as you are, survivor or not. Let sleep come, in the quiet truth that every story matters, even the ones not told. The Pygmalion Effect, expectations shape reality. There's a powerful influence in the expectations placed upon you, by others, and even more so, by yourself. This is the Pygmalion Effect, a psychological bias where the higher the expectations, the better the performance, and the lower the expectations, the poorer the outcome. People tend to rise or fall, not just because of their abilities, but because of what they believe is expected of them. If someone expects you to succeed, to grow, to excel, you start believing in that possibility. You begin to act in ways that fulfill that belief. But if someone expects failure, disappointment, or mediocrity, that belief can weigh on you, subtly pulling you downward. This bias operates silently, often without awareness. Think about a teacher who believes a student is gifted, how they give more attention, more encouragement, more patience. The student, sensing this, begins to trust their own potential, to try harder, to take risks. The opposite happens too. A lack of belief, a subtle doubt, can cause hesitation, insecurity, and a retreat from effort. The mind is shaped by what it absorbs from the world around it, and expectations act like a mirror. You reflect what you think others see in you. But the Pygmalion Effect isn't just external. Your own expectations create internal worlds. When you expect yourself to achieve, to be kind, to be strong, you behave in alignment with that belief. When you expect failure, you guard yourself, avoid challenges, and often fulfill that quiet prophecy. Expectations are powerful. They don't just predict, they create. Think now about the expectations that have lived in you. What have others believed about you? What have you believed about yourself? How have those shaped the choices you've made? Let those thoughts rest, not with pressure, but with understanding. You are not bound by anyone's expectations, not theirs, not even your own. As you lie here, let those expectations fade into the stillness. There is nothing to rise to tonight, No role to fulfill. Just breath. Just quiet. Let your mind release the weight of what is expected. Let sleep come, not because you must, but because you can. The placebo effect, the power of belief over the body. Your mind has an incredible ability to influence your body, sometimes in ways that seem impossible. This is the placebo effect, when you experience real changes in your body or feelings, simply because you believe something is working, even if it's inactive or false. A sugar pill can relieve pain. A saline injection can calm anxiety. The belief that healing is happening can trigger actual responses in your body. This isn't about trickery. It's about the deep connection between your thoughts and your physical self. When you expect relief, your brain releases chemicals that mimic the effects of real medicine. When you believe in care, your body responds as if it's being healed. The placebo doesn't cure, but your belief in it activates real processes of comfort, calm, and ease. The placebo effect shows how powerful your mind truly is, not in curing illness, but in shaping how you feel, how you experience discomfort, how you cope. Belief becomes a bridge between hope and sensation. And sometimes, that bridge is enough to carry you through. But belief works both ways. Doubt, fear, and negative expectations can also shape how you feel. This is the nocebo effect, the darker twin of placebo, where expecting harm or failure creates discomfort or worsens symptoms. The mind listens closely to what it believes, and the body follows. As you rest now, let yourself feel the quiet power of belief, not in anything outside of you, but in your own ability to find calm. Let your breath be the gentle medicine, moving slowly, easily. Let your thoughts guide your body into stillness. You don't need a cure tonight. Just rest. Just trust. Just the soft understanding that your mind and body are connected. And together, they can find peace. Let sleep come, carried on the quiet strength of belief. Groupthink, when harmony silences truth. Sometimes, the desire to belong can overpower the need to think clearly. This is groupthink, a bias where the pressure to conform, to keep peace within a group, leads people to suppress doubts, ignore problems, and follow decisions they might otherwise question. It happens in teams, in families, in communities. The fear of standing out, of causing conflict, can silence the voice inside that says, something isn't right. In a group, you might notice a strange idea, a risky plan, or a flawed choice. But if everyone else agrees, if no one speaks up, you hesitate. Maybe I'm wrong, you think, or it's not worth the trouble. The group's unity becomes more important than the truth. And slowly, your judgment softens, not from clarity, but from the desire to stay connected. Groupthink can lead to mistakes, even disasters. It can stop innovation, silence creativity, and keep problems hidden. But it feels safe. Agreement feels warm, supportive, easy. Dissent feels cold, lonely, difficult. The mind chooses comfort, even at the cost of truth. Think gently now about a time when you stayed silent in a group. What held you back? Let yourself see that moment, not with regret, but with compassion. It's natural to want peace. It's natural to fear conflict. But your voice matters. Your thoughts matter. As you rest now, there's no group to please, no harmony to maintain, just your own quiet mind, your own soft breath. Let the pressure ease. Let sleep come, not as part of the crowd, but as your own. The IKEA effect, loving what you build. There's a special attachment you feel to things you've put effort into, even if they're flawed, even if they're imperfect. This is the IKEA effect, the bias where you overvalue something simply because you helped create it. When you build a piece of furniture, cook a meal, write a story, you feel a deeper connection, a sense of pride. The work you've done adds value, in your eyes, beyond what others might see. This bias is tied to effort and ownership. The more you invest, the more it feels like yours. And because it's yours, it feels worth more. You might notice this when you defend a project you worked on, even if it didn't turn out perfectly. or when you feel more satisfied with something handmade than something store-bought. Your effort creates meaning, and meaning creates value. But the IKEA effect can also make you blind. It can keep you tied to things that aren't serving you, just because you've put time into them. It can make you reject better options, because they weren't your creation. The pride in what you've built can become a cage, locking you into choices you don't need anymore. Think softly now about something you've held on to, just because it was yours. How much of its worth is real, and how much comes from your effort? Let that thought rest, without needing to answer. Effort is beautiful, but it doesn't have to bind you. As you lie here, let yourself feel pride in what you've done, but freedom to let go. Let your breath carry both the value of work and the peace of release. Let sleep come as something you don't have to build, but something already here, waiting. Authority bias, trusting power over logic. There's a deep tendency in the human mind to place trust in those who seem to hold power, expertise, or status. This is authority bias, when you believe something is true, not because you've examined the facts, but because someone in a position of authority said so. The title, the uniform, the reputation, these symbols of power influence your judgment, often more than the content of what's being said. When an expert speaks, you listen more closely. When a leader gives a directive, you're more likely to follow. It feels natural to trust those who appear to know more, to have more experience, more control. But this trust can override your own reasoning. You stop questioning, stop analyzing, because the source feels credible. It's comforting to believe that someone else knows best. Authority bias shows up in medicine, in business, in daily life. A doctor's advice feels more valid, even if it's flawed. A CEO's vision seems wiser, even if it's risky. A public figure's words carry weight, even if they're empty. The mind shortcuts the process of understanding, leaning instead on the perceived safety of following someone who appears in charge. But authority doesn't guarantee truth. Experts can be wrong, leaders can be mistaken, and blindly following can lead you astray. This bias doesn't ask you to reject authority, but to balance respect with inquiry. To remember that titles don't replace thinking. Think softly now about a time when you trusted too quickly, too fully, because someone seemed to know more. How did that feel? Did it serve you? Or did it lead you away from your own sense of things? Let that reflection rest gently. As you lie here, let go of the need for outside guidance. In this moment, there's no voice above you, no figure to follow, just your breath, your quiet, your mind. Let authority step aside, and let stillness lead. Let sleep come, on your own terms. The Backfire Effect, when facts make beliefs stronger. It's natural to think that when someone shows you facts that challenge your beliefs, you might change your mind, but the opposite often happens. This is the Backfire Effect, when being presented with evidence against your belief actually makes you defend it more strongly. Your mind tightens around what it knows, pushing away what feels threatening, even if it's true. Beliefs are tied to identity. They aren't just ideas, they're part of who you are, how you see the world, how you feel safe. When someone questions a belief, it feels like they're questioning you. And so, the mind reacts not by opening, but by closing. It looks for ways to reject the new information, to discredit the source, to find flaws in the facts. The stronger the challenge, the stronger the defense. You've likely seen this in arguments, where both sides dig deeper into their positions, no matter what evidence is shared. But it happens quietly too, inside you. When you read something that doesn't match your view, notice how quickly you might dismiss it, not because it's false, but because it doesn't fit. This bias keeps beliefs stable, but it can also keep them rigid. It makes growth harder, change slower. It turns learning into a battle, rather than a discovery. Think gently now about a belief you've held tightly. Has new information ever felt like a threat? Let that thought rest, without needing to change anything. As you lie here, you don't need to defend, or explain, or decide. Let your breath soften. Let your mind loosen its grip. Tonight, there are no arguments, no challenges, only quiet, only peace. Let sleep come, beyond belief. Base rate neglect, ignoring the big picture. When making judgments or predictions, your mind often ignores the general odds, focusing instead on specific details. This is base rate neglect, when you forget the broad statistics and focus too much on the unique case. The base rate is the overall likelihood of something happening, but your attention is pulled toward the vivid, the personal, the immediate. For example, you might hear about a rare disease and worry you'll get it, even though the chance is extremely low. Or you might meet someone who seems trustworthy and ignore the general signs that suggest caution. Your mind favors stories over numbers, emotions over logic. The specific case feels more real, more important, even when the bigger picture tells a different story. Base rate neglect shows up in how you judge risks, how you estimate chances, how you decide. It makes rare events seem common, and common events seem distant. It skews your sense of reality, making you focus on exceptions, not the rule. Think about a time when you feared something unlikely, or trusted something risky, because of a specific detail. How did that feel? Where did your mind go? Let that reflection settle gently. As you lie here, let the need for prediction ease. You don't need to calculate, or plan, or measure. Let your breath be the only rhythm you follow. Let the big picture fade into the quiet of now. Let sleep come, free from odds, free from judgment. The gambler's fallacy, believing in luck's return. When you flip a coin and it lands heads 5 times, you start to feel that tails must be due. This is the gambler's fallacy, the belief that past random events affect future ones. You think, it's been so long since I've had good luck, it must come now. Or, things have gone well for too long, something bad is coming. But chance has no memory. Each moment is fresh, untouched by the ones before. This bias pulls you into patterns that aren't real. It makes you bet on the idea that the universe balances itself in the short term. But randomness doesn't follow fairness. A streak is just a streak, not a sign. Yet your mind craves patterns, meaning, order. It wants to believe that if you wait long enough, the odds will turn in your favor, or that if you've been fortunate, you need to prepare for the fall. You see this in life beyond games, in relationships, in work, in health. You brace for bad after good, or hope for good after bad, thinking the scale must tip. But life isn't always balanced that way. It flows, unpredictable. Think gently now about a time when you waited for luck to change, when you believed something was due. Let that thought soften. As you lie here, let go of the need to see patterns where there are none. Let your breath flow, random, natural, free. Each inhale, each exhale, untouched by the last. Let sleep come, without luck, without chance, just as it is. The hot hand fallacy, chasing streaks that aren't real. There's something exciting about a winning streak. When things go well, one after the other, you start to feel unstoppable, as if you're on fire. This is known as the hot hand fallacy, the belief that because you've had success repeatedly, you're more likely to continue succeeding. You think, I'm in the zone, or luck is on my side, and so you take more risks, trust your momentum, and believe in a streak that, in reality, might not exist. The mind loves patterns. When you notice a run of positive outcomes, like hitting the right note every time, winning several games in a row, or making correct decisions repeatedly, it feels like something special is happening. But in most random or uncertain situations, each outcome is independent. Just because you succeeded before doesn't mean you're more likely to succeed again. Yet the feeling of confidence builds, fueled by your recent wins. This bias is common in sports, gambling, even in business or personal life. A basketball player who scores several times feels like they can't miss. A trader who makes several good investments believes they've found their touch. You ride the wave of past success, often ignoring caution, assuming the streak will continue. But reality doesn't follow streaks. It follows chance, skill, and circumstance. The danger of the hot hand fallacy is that it can lead to overconfidence. You trust your luck too much, take on more than you can handle, or dismiss signs that things might change. When the streak breaks, it can feel shocking, unfair, even disorienting. But the truth is, you were never truly in control of the streak. It was always just a moment in time. Think gently now about a time when you believed in a streak, when you felt invincible. Let that memory settle, not with regret, but with understanding. Success is real, but it's not magic. It's a mix of effort, timing, and chance. As you lie here, let go of the need to chase the streak. Let your breath find its own rhythm. Not forced, not followed, just steady. Let sleep come, not as part of a pattern, but as a quiet end to the day. Reactance, wanting what you're told not to want. There's a quiet rebellion that stirs when someone tells you what you can't do, what you shouldn't want, or what's off limits. This is reactance, a psychological bias where restrictions make the forbidden things seem more attractive. When freedom feels threatened, your mind pushes back, not always because you need what's denied, but because you don't like being controlled. This can happen with rules, advice, or even gentle suggestions. If someone says, "Don't look at that," your curiosity grows. If you're told you can't have something, you suddenly feel like you need it. Reactance is rooted in your need for autonomy, the desire to choose freely, to own your decisions. When that freedom feels squeezed, the mind resists. Reactance isn't just about defiance, it's about restoring balance. When you feel pushed, you push back to reclaim control. But sometimes, this leads you to choices that aren't truly yours, made not from desire, but from resistance. You might pursue something just because it's forbidden, not because it's right for you. This bias can create conflict in relationships, at work, or within yourself. The more you feel pressured, the more you resist, even when the pressure is meant to help. The mind values freedom over reason, and sometimes it leads you away from what you really want. Think gently now about a time when you wanted something more, simply because it was denied. How much of that want was real, and how much was resistance? Let that thought soften. As you lie here, there's nothing you must do, nothing you must resist. Let your breath move freely. Each inhale a choice, each exhale a release. Let sleep come, without push, without pull, just ease. Ostrich Effect, burying your head in the sand. Sometimes, the mind chooses to look away. When faced with bad news, difficult truths, or uncomfortable realities, you might avoid them, hoping they'll disappear if ignored. This is the Ostrich Effect, a bias where you deliberately avoid information that feels threatening, choosing ignorance over awareness. Like the myth of the ostrich burying its head in the sand, you hide, not because you're weak, but because you fear the weight of knowing. You see this in finances, when people avoid checking bills or bank statements. In health, when symptoms are ignored, tests delayed. In relationships, when problems are left unspoken. The mind believes that not knowing will protect you from worry, from action, from pain. But the truth lingers, whether seen or not. Avoidance offers short-term comfort, but often leads to long-term stress. The problem grows in the dark, feeding on neglect. Yet facing it feels heavy, risky. The ostrich effect is the mind's way of buying time, hoping the storm will pass without needing to step into it. Think softly now about something you've looked away from. Not to judge, but to see. What have you feared to face? Let that fear rest beside you, not as an enemy, but as something human. As you lie here, there's no need to face it now. Let your breath be enough, filling the space with calm. Let sleep come, not in avoidance, but in gentle pause. The Pratfall Effect. Why flaws can make you likable. Perfection can create distance. When someone seems flawless, they feel unrelatable, untouchable. But when you see a small flaw, a mistake, a stumble, they become more human, more real. This is the Pratfall Effect, the idea that a small imperfection can make someone more likable, more approachable, especially if they're already competent. You admire strength, but you connect with vulnerability. A confident speaker who forgets a word, a skilled leader who admits an error. These moments don't diminish them. They make them familiar. The mind finds comfort in knowing that others aren't perfect, because it mirrors your own imperfections. This bias reminds you that flawlessness isn't necessary. Trying to be perfect all the time can create stress, fear of failure, and emotional distance from others. But allowing small mistakes, showing your human side, invites trust and connection. It shows that strength and softness can exist together. Think gently now about your own flaws. The small ones, the ones you try to hide. Let them be here with you, not as burdens, but as parts of your whole. You are not perfect, and you don't need to be. Let your breath hold both your strengths and your stumbles. Let sleep come, not in perfection, but in peace. The peak end rule, judging by the best and the last moments. Your memory of an experience is rarely shaped by the full journey. It's shaped by two specific moments, the peak and the end. This is known as the peak end rule, a cognitive bias where you judge an entire event based on how it felt at its most intense point and how it ended, rather than on the total sum of all the moments. You might have hours of neutral or mildly pleasant experiences, but if there's one powerful high or one deep low, that moment sticks, and it defines your memory. The final moments of the experience also leave a lasting mark, often coloring how you feel about it later. Think about a vacation. There might have been long stretches of calm, of walking, of waiting, but what stands out? The breathtaking view at the top, or the missed flight at the end. Those two moments take up more space in your mind than the rest. The mind simplifies experience. It doesn't carry every detail. Instead, it pulls from the most emotional and the final points. And those become the story you tell yourself. This bias affects how you think about your days, your relationships, your achievements. A project that went smoothly for weeks but ended in stress feels like a failure. A long relationship with ups and downs is remembered mostly for how it ended. The mind holds onto the peaks, both good and bad, and the ends, and lets the middle fade. But what's lost in this process is the richness of everything in between, the quiet moments, the steady effort, the gentle rhythms of experience. The bias makes you believe that only the highs and lows matter, but life is made of more than just that. Think gently now about something you've judged harshly or fondly because of how it ended or because of one intense moment. Let yourself see the whole picture, the full path. Let your mind soften its grip on the extremes. As you lie here, there's no peak to reach, no end to fear. Just this quiet middle, this breath, this now. Let sleep come, free from judgment, held in the calm of the in-between. Belief bias, accepting bad logic if the conclusion feels right. There's a quiet trick your mind plays when you hear an argument or a piece of reasoning. If the conclusion agrees with what you already believe, you tend to accept it, even if the logic that led to it is flawed. This is called belief bias, the tendency to judge the strength of an argument based on how believable the conclusion is, not on whether the reasoning is valid. When something feels true, you let the details slide. You don't examine the steps. You just nod along. Imagine someone saying, "All dogs are friendly. Max is a dog. Therefore, Max is friendly." It seems fine, because you believe dogs are friendly. But if someone said, "All dogs are dangerous. Max is a dog. Therefore, Max is dangerous," you might reject it, not because the logic changed, but because the conclusion clashes with your belief. This bias protects your worldview, keeping your beliefs safe from challenge. But it also makes it hard to see the truth clearly. You miss the flaws in arguments that support your side, and you're harsher on those that don't. The mind chooses comfort over correctness. Belief bias is subtle. It shows up in conversations, in news, in your own thoughts. When something aligns with what you already think, you don't look too closely. When it doesn't, You look too hard. This keeps beliefs rigid, even when they deserve to be questioned. Think softly now about something you've accepted quickly, simply because it matched what you felt was true. Let that thought rest, not in doubt, but in curiosity. As you lie here, there's no argument to win, no belief to defend. Let your breath be the only truth you need. Let sleep come, gently, beyond logic, beyond belief. Moral credential effect. Excusing yourself after one good deed. Doing something good feels satisfying. It boosts your sense of self, strengthens your identity as a moral, kind, or fair person. But sometimes, that sense of goodness gives you silent permission to relax your standards, to excuse behavior you might otherwise question. This is the moral credential effect, a bias where after doing something positive, you feel licensed to act in ways that are less good, or even contradictory. You might think, I donated to charity, so it's okay if I treat myself now. Or I spoke kindly earlier, so it's fine if I'm blunt now. The mind tallies your good actions like points, and with enough points, it gives you room to bend. It's not always conscious. You still see yourself as good, but that identity becomes a shield, a single act of fairness, generosity, or kindness seems to cover what comes after. This bias can lead to inconsistency, to moments where you act out of alignment with your values, because you feel you've already proven who you are. It shows up in big ways and small, in choices, in judgments, in how you treat others, and it can make self-reflection harder, because the mind reminds you of your past good, even when you need to look at your present actions. Think gently now about a time when you excused something, not because it was right, but because you felt you'd earned the space to slip. Let that thought rest, not with guilt, but with awareness. As you lie here, there's no need to prove anything, no need to balance the scales. Let your breath be enough, steady and true. Let sleep come, not as a reward, but as a quiet release. The Zeigarnik Effect, unfinished business lingers. Your mind holds on to what's incomplete, tasks you haven't finished, conversations left hanging, plans left undone. They stay with you, more vividly than what's been completed. This is the Zeigarnik Effect, the tendency to remember and be bothered by unfinished tasks more than those that are done. The mind craves closure, and when it doesn't get it, it keeps the door open, even when you want to move on. You felt it when trying to sleep, as your mind replays the things you need to do, the things you left half done, the email you didn't send, the project still waiting, the words you didn't say. Finished tasks fade, unfinished ones stick, asking for attention, for completion. This bias can create stress, restlessness, a constant feeling of needing to catch up. Even small tasks feel heavy, simply because they're not yet closed. But the Zeigarnik Effect also helps you remember, keeps important things in focus. It's a mental reminder, a nudge to return. Think softly now about something unfinished. Let it be here with you, not as pressure, but as a gentle note. It doesn't need to be resolved tonight. Let your mind know that rest is allowed, even with open ends. Let your breath be the only task, the only rhythm. Inhale, exhale, complete in itself. Let sleep come, even with things undone. The Cheerleader Effect, why groups look better. Sometimes, people seem more attractive, more appealing, more impressive when they are in a group than when seen alone. This is known as the Cheerleader Effect, a bias where individuals appear more attractive when viewed as part of a group. Your mind, when looking at a group, processes faces collectively. It smooths out imperfections, blends features, and enhances the overall appearance of each member. Alone, the same individuals might not stand out, but together, they seem to shine. This effect comes from how your brain processes visual information. When you look at a group, your attention shifts rapidly between faces, never lingering too long on anyone. Your mind fills in details, creating an average that often seems more appealing than any single face. It's a shortcut, a way to handle complexity quickly. But this shortcut changes how you perceive individuals. You might notice this in social settings. like parties or meetings. Someone who seems charming in a group might feel less so one-on-one. Or someone overlooked alone may seem more engaging when part of a lively circle. The cheerleader effect doesn't just shape attraction. It influences judgment, how you assess likability, confidence, even competence. This bias can affect how you see yourself. 2. In a group, you might feel more confident, more valued, more noticed. Alone, you might doubt your appeal. But this shift isn't about who you are. It's about how minds, including your own, process what they see. Think gently now about how groups have shaped your views of others, or yourself. Let that awareness rest softly. As you lie here, there's no group, no crowd, only you. And you are enough, just as you are. Let your breath find its steady rhythm, unblended, unjudged. Let sleep come, as your own. Risk compensation, acting riskier when you feel safe, when you feel protected, when the danger seems low. Your behavior often shifts. You might take more risks, push boundaries, or act with less caution. This is risk compensation, a bias where increased safety leads to increased risk-taking. The safer you feel, the more likely you are to test limits, sometimes unknowingly. You see this when people drive faster in cars with better safety features, or take bolder actions when wearing protective gear. The added safety, instead of reducing risk overall, changes how you behave. You balance the feeling of security with the urge to explore, to stretch. It's as if your mind seeks a certain level of risk, and when protection lowers it, you compensate. This bias appears in everyday choices. You might overspend because of a financial cushion. You might ignore health precautions because of a sense of strength. The feeling of safety, while valuable, can dull your awareness of real limits. It's not recklessness. It's a shift in perception. Think softly now about a time when feeling secure led you to take a chance, to step beyond your usual caution. How did that feel? Let that memory rest, not in fear, but in understanding. As you lie here, there's no need to act, no risk to balance. Let safety simply be. Let your breath hold you gently, without needing more. Let sleep come, in peace. Social desirability bias, saying what sounds good, not what's true. In many moments, you shape what you say and do based on what you think others will approve of. This is social desirability bias, the tendency to present yourself in a way that's more acceptable, more likable, more aligned with what society values, even if it's not fully honest. You might say you exercise more than you do, that you care about certain issues more deeply than you really feel, or that you've never made a mistake you secretly remember well. This bias isn't about lying, it's about belonging. You want to be seen in a positive light, to be respected, to fit in, so you adjust, just a little, shaping your image to match what others expect. Over time, it can become automatic. You answer questions in ways that feel right to the world, not always to yourself. But this bias can distance you from your true self. When you constantly manage how you appear, you lose touch with what's real, with what's yours. You carry the weight of pleasing, of presenting, of protecting an image. Think gently now about a time when you said what was expected, not what you truly felt. Let that moment rest, without shame. As you lie here, there's no audience, no judgment. Let your breath return you to yourself, to what's honest, quiet, and enough. Let sleep come, free from appearances, held in truth. Ambiguity effect, avoiding the unknown. When faced with choices, your mind often prefers what it understands, what feels clear, what seems certain. This is the ambiguity effect, a bias where you avoid options that involve unknowns, even if they might bring more value or growth. The mind fears uncertainty. It's drawn to what can be predicted, even if the predictable is less rewarding. You see this in decisions, big and small. Choosing a familiar product over a new one, picking a known path over an unexplored one, saying no to a chance because you don't have all the details. Ambiguity creates discomfort, a sense of risk, not just of loss, but but of not knowing what to expect. This bias limits exploration, shrinks possibilities. It keeps you within the bounds of the known, the safe, the expected. And yet, much of life's beauty lies beyond certainty, in the spaces where you step without full knowledge, where discovery happens. Think softly now about something you've turned away from, simply because it was unclear. Let that thought rest beside you, not as a regret, but as a possibility. As you lie here, let the unknown feel less heavy. Let your breath guide you into the gentle space where not knowing is allowed. Let sleep come, like the unknown, soft, open, free. The Peltzman Effect, more safety, more risk. There's a strange paradox in how your mind reacts to safety. When you feel more protected, you may unconsciously take more risks. This is known as the Peltzman Effect, a bias where improvements in safety measures lead to an increase in risky behavior. As your sense of danger becomes dulled, it's as though the cushion of protection invites you to lean further over the edge, believing the fall won't hurt as much. You might see this on the road. A driver in a car with advanced safety features, airbags, anti-lock brakes, lane assist might drive faster, brake later, or take tighter turns than they would in a less equipped car. They don't intend to be reckless, but the enhanced safety changes their behavior. The perceived reduction in risk invites more risk-taking. The mind balances safety with thrill, almost as if it seeks to maintain a certain level of danger to feel alive, engaged, or in control. This effect isn't limited to driving. It shows up in sports, finance, health, even relationships. When you feel emotionally secure, you might push boundaries, test limits, or neglect caution, protective gear, safety nets. Even the comfort of trust can nudge you into spaces you wouldn't have dared enter without that sense of backing. The Peltzman Effect can quietly undo the benefits of safety measures. What's meant to protect can be undermined by how you respond to it. It's not about foolishness, it's about perception. When fear lessens, so does restraint. But this doesn't mean safety is bad. It means awareness must walk beside it. Think gently now about a time when you felt safe, and let that safety lead you into risk. How did it shape your choices? How did it feel afterward? Let that memory rest softly. As you lie here, there's nothing you need to protect against. No risks to balance. Let your breath carry you into stillness, where safety simply holds, without demand. Let sleep come, not as a reaction, but as a gentle release. The Pratfall Effect. Why flaws can make you likable. Perfection can seem cold, distant. When someone appears flawless, it can be hard to relate to them. But when you notice a small flaw, a mistake, or a moment of vulnerability, they suddenly feel more human, more approachable. This is known as the Pratfall Effect, a bias where competent people become more likable after showing a minor weakness or flaw. It's not the error that draws you in, but the balance it creates. You admire skill, confidence, and strength, but you connect with imperfection. A person who stumbles, forgets a word, or spills a drink during a speech becomes relatable. Their error doesn't diminish their competence. Instead, it enhances their humanity. The mind sees perfection as unreachable, but when it's paired with flaw, it feels real. This bias helps explain why stories, performances, and even friendships deepen through shared vulnerability. When someone strong admits they're tired, scared, or unsure, you lean closer, not further away. The flaw acts as a bridge between them and you. It says, "I'm like you." It invites empathy, trust, warmth. But the Pratfall Effect only works when competence is already established. A flaw in someone unskilled can reinforce doubt. But when it's seen in someone respected, it brings depth. It shows that strength isn't about never failing. It's about carrying both success and imperfection. Think softly now about your own flaws, the small ones, the ones you hide. What if they didn't weaken you, but made you whole? Let that thought rest, not in shame, but in kindness. As you lie here, you don't need to be perfect. Let your breath move freely. carrying all that you are. Let sleep come, held in the gentle truth that imperfection is part of being loved. The false uniqueness effect, thinking you're more different than you are. You might believe that your abilities, values, or traits are rarer than they actually are. This is the false uniqueness effect, a bias where you see yourself as more unique than the people around you. You think, no one understands this the way I do, or most people don't care about this like I do, even when, in truth, many feel the same. This belief can create a comforting sense of individuality, but also a quiet distance from others. The mind seeks identity, and uniqueness becomes part of that. You notice your values, your efforts, your thoughts, and they feel distinct because you experience them from the inside. You rarely see others' internal worlds, so you assume yours is unlike theirs. You feel proud of your talents, your kindness, your struggles, believing few share them at the same depth. But this bias can make you feel isolated. When you think you're alone in your experiences, your dreams, or your fears, connection becomes harder. You may dismiss others' contributions, believing they don't match your own, or you might feel misunderstood, unseen, because no one seems to share what matters to you. Yet, beneath the surface, you are more alike than you think. Others feel deeply, struggle quietly, hope silently. The uniqueness you cherish is real, but so is the common thread of being human. Think softly now about something you've believed was yours alone. What if others carry it too? Let that idea settle, not to take away your individuality, but to remind you that you're not alone. As you lie here, let the space between you and others soften. Let your breath connect, not separate. Let sleep come, as a shared comfort, held in the quiet truth of togetherness. Effort justification, loving what you worked hard for. When you've worked hard for something, it feels more valuable, more meaningful. This is known as effort justification, a bias where you believe something is better simply because you invested time, energy, or pain into achieving it. The struggle itself becomes part of the reward. Your mind, needing to make sense of the effort, elevates the outcome to match it. You see this in many areas of life. A project that drained you feels more significant. A relationship you fought for seems more precious. A goal reached after setbacks feels richer than one reached easily. The more you give, the more you believe the result must be worth it. Otherwise, the effort would feel wasted. This bias protects you from regret, from the discomfort of questioning whether it was worth it. It tells you, if I work this hard, it must matter. But sometimes, it keeps you tied to things that no longer serve you, just because you can't let go of the effort already spent. Think gently now about something you valued, perhaps because of the struggle it took to reach it. Does the value still hold, or is it shaped by the past effort? Let that thought rest, without needing an answer. As you lie here, let your breath ease the weight of effort. You don't need to justify, to prove, to hold on. Let sleep come, as something effortless, something free. The overconfidence effect, trusting your gut too much. There's a quiet certainty that creeps into your thoughts, making you believe you know more than you do. This is the overconfidence effect, a bias where you overestimate your knowledge, your skills, or your predictions about future events. You trust your gut, your memories, your instincts, often more than the facts, more than the probabilities. This confidence feels good. It brings clarity, decisiveness, even pride, but it can lead you away from accuracy, away from reality. You might notice this when answering a question you're sure you know, only to find out you were wrong, or when estimating how long a task will take, believing it'll be quicker because you feel capable. It shows up when you predict outcomes of games, of conversations, of plans, trusting that things will unfold as you expect, because they've done so before. But the mind's sense of certainty often outpaces its actual grasp of the truth. The overconfidence effect is especially strong in areas where you feel skilled or experienced. Familiarity breeds belief in control, and belief in control feeds confidence. But even experts can misjudge, can miss details, can fail. Yet the bias remains, urging you to believe in your correctness, to act with surety, even when the situation calls for caution. This bias can lead to bold decisions, to risks taken without full understanding, to mistakes that feel surprising only because you didn't see the cracks in your own thinking. Overconfidence can make you dismiss advice, overlook warnings, and underestimate challenges. It can push you forward, but it can also push you into trouble. Think softly now about a time when you were sure, and then surprised. How did it feel to trust your sense of knowing, only to find it incomplete? Let that memory settle gently. As you lie here, let go of the need to be certain. Let your breath guide you, steady and open. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to be right. Let sleep come, in the quiet space where uncertainty is safe, and rest is enough. Expectation bias, seeing what you expect to see. Your mind doesn't just observe the world, it shapes it through the lens of what you expect to find. This is expectation bias, a subtle but powerful force where your beliefs about what will happen influence what you notice, how you interpret events, and what you remember. When you expect something, your mind looks for signs that confirm it. You become more sensitive to the details that align with your expectations, and you often miss or dismiss what doesn't fit. You expect someone to be unfriendly, and every small action they take seems cold. You expect success, and every step forward feels like proof you're on the right path. The mind seeks consistency, and expectations provide a framework to make sense of what's around you. But this framework can narrow your view, filtering out the unexpected truths. Expectation bias shapes relationships, work, even how you see yourself. If you expect to fail, you notice every stumble. If you expect to be loved, you see kindness more easily. It's not just about what's real, it's about what your mind is prepared to see. This can comfort you, but it can also trap you in familiar patterns. The bias also reinforces itself. What you expect, you see. What you see, you believe. What you believe, you expect again. Breaking this cycle requires awareness, a willingness to question what you assume. Think softly now about what you've expected today. Did it shape what you saw? Let that thought rest gently. As you lie here, let go of expectations of the night, of yourself, of tomorrow. Let your breath move freely, unbound. Let sleep come, not as expected, but as it is. Belief perseverance, holding on even when proven wrong. Once a belief takes root, it becomes hard to let go, even when faced with clear evidence against it. This is belief perseverance, a bias where you continue to hold a belief despite new information that contradicts it. Your mind, once convinced, resists change. It's not about stubbornness. It's about the comfort and stability that beliefs provide. Beliefs shape your understanding of the world, your identity, your sense of right and wrong. When they're challenged, it feels like you're being asked to give up part of yourself. So you defend, you explain, you find ways to dismiss the new evidence, to protect the old idea. It's safer, easier, less unsettling to hold on than to let go. This bias shows up in many forms. In how you view people, believing someone is kind, even when they hurt you. In how you judge events, thinking a situation was fair, even when it wasn't. In how you see yourself, believing you can't succeed, even after small wins. The mind prefers the familiar belief to the chaos of change, but holding on can keep you stuck, blind to growth, blind to truth. It can close you off from new experiences, from deeper understanding. Yet, the letting go is hard. Think gently now about a belief you've held tightly. Has it served you, or has it weighed on you? Let that question sit softly, without pressure. As you lie here, you don't need to hold on. You don't need to let go. Just rest in the space between knowing and unknowing. Let your breath carry both the old and the new. Let sleep come, quietly, with no need for belief. The Barnum Effect, feeling seen by vague words. You've likely read something, a horoscope, a personality test, a fortune that felt so true, so accurate. It seemed like it was written just for you. This is the Barnum Effect, a bias where vague, general statements are seen as highly personal because your mind fills in the blanks. You read, you sometimes doubt yourself, but deep down, you know you're capable, and you nod, feeling understood. But the same words could apply to anyone. The Barnum Effect works because your mind wants meaning. It looks for patterns, for signs, for reflections of yourself in the world. When a statement is broad, you find ways to make it fit. You ignore what doesn't apply and focus on what does. The mind does this not to deceive, but to feel connected, to feel known. This bias is used in astrology, in personality quizzes, even in sales and politics. Words that seem specific are really open, adaptable, made to resonate with many, yet they feel intimate, revealing. They offer comfort, a sense of being seen, even when the source is impersonal. Think softly now about a time when words felt true, but perhaps they were meant for more than just you. Let that memory rest, not in disappointment, but in curiosity. As you lie here, you don't need to be defined by any words. Let your breath write its own quiet truth. Let sleep come, not from what is said, but from what is felt. The Affect Heuristic, letting emotions guide decisions. Decision-making is often seen as a rational process. You gather information, weigh options, and make a choice, but more often than not, your emotions lead the way. This is the Affect Heuristic, a mental shortcut where your feelings about something influence how you judge it. If something feels good, safe, or familiar, you believe it's right. If it feels bad, risky, or strange, you see it as wrong, even when the facts say otherwise. Imagine choosing a product. You may not compare all features or prices. Instead, you might go with the one that feels right. Or when thinking about a decision, if it makes you anxious, you might avoid it, not because it's bad, but because of the discomfort it brings. The Affect Heuristic helps you make fast decisions, especially in complex or uncertain situations, but it can lead you away from careful thought. This bias is powerful because emotions are immediate. They color your perception before reason has a chance to act. A pleasant tone, a familiar face, a soothing design, these trigger positive feelings, and you judge them favorably. Fear, anger, or sadness, on the other hand, make risk seem bigger, threats closer, outcomes worse. While this shortcut is useful in many moments, it can also trap you. It can make you reject good opportunities because they feel uncomfortable, or trust something unwise because it feels good. Your emotional response isn't always a reflection of reality. It's a reflection of your internal state. Think softly now about a choice you made based on feeling rather than fact. How did that shape your path? Let that thought rest, without judgment. As you lie here, no decision presses. Let your breath guide you, gentle and clear. Let sleep come, beyond emotion, beyond thought, just peace. The actor's bias, you're a victim. Others are responsible. When you reflect on your own actions, especially the ones you're not proud of, you often see the reasons behind them: stress, pressure, misunderstandings, bad timing. But when you look at others' actions, especially their mistakes, you tend to think it's about their character. This is known as actor's bias, a tendency to attribute your actions to external circumstances, while blaming others' actions on who they are inside. You were rude because you had a bad day. They were rude because they're inconsiderate. You missed a deadline because of unexpected events. They missed it because they're lazy. This bias shapes how you see yourself and the people around you. It protects your self-image, making you feel reasonable, even when you're wrong. But it can also make you harsh towards others, stripping away the context behind their actions. This bias isn't about lying to yourself. It's about perspective. You know your own story in detail, the pressures and struggles. But with others, you only see the surface, and the mind fills in the rest, often unfairly. Over time, This creates distance between you and others, between judgment and empathy. Think softly now about a time when you excused yourself but blamed another. What might their story have been? Let that thought settle gently. As you lie here, let go of roles: actor, observer, judge. Let your breath move through you, free from blame, free from defense. Let sleep come, in quiet understanding. Relativity trap, judging by comparison, not value. Your mind rarely looks at things in isolation. Instead, it compares. This is the relativity trap, a bias where you value things not based on their own worth, but on how they stand next to something else. A meal seems expensive or cheap depending on what's around it. A person seems attractive, a job appealing, an idea smart, not because of what they are, but because of what they're compared to. This bias simplifies decisions. When faced with two options, you quickly assess which one is better, even if neither is truly good for you. The mind needs contrast to understand value, but this contrast can mislead. You might buy something unnecessary because it was cheaper than the alternative, or chase goals, not because they fulfill you, but because they look impressive next to someone else's. Relativity also fuels discontent. When you see others with more, you feel less. When you see others with less, you feel more. It keeps you measuring, competing, adjusting, rarely satisfied, rarely grounded. Think softly now about something you valued, simply because it looked better than something else. Let that thought rest. As you lie here, there's no comparison, no measure. Let your breath be your guide, simple, steady, enough. Let sleep come, in its own value. Scarcity bias, wanting what's rare. When something is hard to find, or limited, it feels more valuable. This is the scarcity bias, the tendency to desire things more when they're rare, limited, or about to disappear. Your mind links scarcity with worth. If it's hard to get, it must be special. This feeling drives urgency, making you act quickly, often without fully thinking. Sales use this bias. Only a few left. Limited time. These phrases trigger a fear of missing out. You stop asking, "Do I need this?" and start thinking, "Will I lose this?" Scarcity narrows your focus. You see what you might lose, not what you might gain. This bias isn't just about things. It's about people, opportunities, time. A person who seems unavailable becomes more attractive. A job that's rare seems more desirable. A fleeting moment feels more precious. Scarcity creates pressure, pushing you to act, to chase, to hold on. But what's scarce isn't always valuable, and what's valuable isn't always scarce. Think softly now about something you've wanted because it was rare. Let that desire rest. As you lie here, there is no lack, no rush. Let your breath remind you of what's always here. Let sleep come, in abundance, in peace. The pseudocertainty effect, ignoring risk to feel safe. Sometimes, your mind seeks comfort in certainty, even when that certainty is not real. This is the pseudocertainty effect, a bias where you focus on parts of a decision that seem certain, while ignoring the underlying risks. You prefer choices that feel safe in the moment, even if the broader situation remains uncertain or even risky. This bias gives you a false sense of security because your attention narrows down to what is predictable, ignoring the unpredictable that still surrounds it. You might see this when you are offered a guaranteed small reward now versus a larger uncertain one later. Even if the bigger reward is logically better, the certainty of getting something now feels more appealing. The mind craves control and certainty, and so it clings to the parts of a situation where risk seems removed, even if only superficially. The pseudocertainty effect shapes how you make decisions about money, health, relationships, and time. Imagine you have two choices: a definite loss of $100 or a 50% chance to lose $200. The certainty of a smaller loss may seem preferable, even if the gamble is mathematically the same. Or perhaps, you take a job that offers a steady, Low salary because it feels safe. Ignoring the uncertain but possibly better opportunities elsewhere. This bias isn't about foolishness. It's about the natural need to find anchors in a sea of uncertainty. When life feels chaotic or overwhelming, any small island of certainty feels like a refuge. The problem arises when that refuge blinds you to the risks you're still carrying or the opportunities you're ignoring. Think gently now about a time when you chose the safe option, not because it was best, but because it was certain. Let that moment rest softly with you, without judgment. As you lie here, know that not everything needs to be certain. Let your breath flow, steady yet open to the unknown. Let sleep come, not as a guarantee, but as a quiet trust. Identifiable victim effect. One life feels bigger than many. When you hear about one person's suffering, you feel a deep, immediate connection. But when you hear about many people in pain, your emotional response may not be as strong. This is the identifiable victim effect, a bias where a single, known life moves you more than large, anonymous groups. Your heart responds to faces, names, and personal stories. Numbers, no matter how large, can feel distant, abstract. You might hear of one child needing help and feel compelled to act. But when told of thousands, the urgency fades. It's not that you don't care, it's that your mind can only hold so much. The more abstract the suffering, the harder it is to grasp emotionally. You're wired to connect personally, not statistically. This bias shapes how you donate, how you support causes, how you respond to news. You are moved by the one you can see, touch, or imagine clearly. The faceless crowd becomes harder to feel. But each life in that crowd matters just as much. The identifiable victim effect isn't a flaw, it's a reflection of your humanity. You feel deeply when the story is close, when it's real. But this can lead you to overlook larger issues, simply because they lack a personal face. It can make your compassion seem uneven, focused on the visible, forgetting the unseen. Think softly now about a time when one story touched you more than many. Let that feeling rest. As you lie here, know that every life matters, seen or unseen. Let your breath hold both the near and the far. Let sleep come, gently, in the quiet balance of feeling. The end of history illusion, thinking you won't change anymore. You look back at who you were 5 or 10 years ago and see the changes, the ways you've grown, shifted, become someone different. But when you look ahead, you feel like who you are now will mostly stay the same. This is the end of history illusion, the belief that while you've changed in the past, you've now reached a stable version of yourself, and future change will be minimal. Your mind loves stories with conclusions, with clear endings. It feels good to believe you've arrived at yourself, that the struggles, learning, and uncertainty of change are mostly behind you. But in truth, you continue to evolve. Your values, dreams, and fears shift with time, shaped by experiences yet to come. This bias can lead you to make choices as if your current self will last forever, deciding where to live, what to pursue, or who to love, based on who you are now. Forgetting that future, you might want something different. It can also make you resist change, believing it's unnecessary because you're already complete. But life doesn't stop unfolding. The person you are today is just another version, not the final one. Think softly now about how you've changed already, and how you might change again. Let that thought rest with you, not as fear, but as possibility. As you lie here, let go of needing to be finished. Let your breath move, fluid and free. Let sleep come, in the gentle flow of becoming. Loss aversion, fearing loss more than loving gain. Losing something feels worse than gaining something feels good. This is loss aversion, a bias where the pain of loss is felt more intensely than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. You might feel twice as bad about losing $100 as you would feel happy gaining the same amount. The fear of loss shapes how you choose, how you act, and how you avoid risks. This bias is rooted in survival. In a world of limited resources, losing what you had could mean real danger. Your mind holds on to that, even in modern times. You might stay in a situation that no longer serves you, simply to avoid the loss of comfort or familiarity. You might avoid opportunities because the fear of losing outweighs the hope of winning. Loss aversion can keep you safe, but it can also keep you stuck. It can make you hold on to things, people, habits, not because they bring joy, but because letting go feels too hard. It can close doors before they're opened, all in the name of protection. Think softly now about something you've held onto out of fear of losing. Let that thought rest, gently. As you lie here, know that not every loss is harm, and not every gain is risk. Let your breath be the only thing you hold, coming and going, always returning. Let sleep come, beyond fear, in quiet trust. The Overjustification Effect. When rewards reduce motivation. There's something unexpected that happens when you begin to receive rewards for something you already enjoy. Slowly, the joy of doing it for its own sake begins to fade. This is the Overjustification Effect, a bias where external rewards, like money, praise, or prizes, reduce your internal motivation to do something you once loved freely. When an activity shifts from being something you choose to something you're paid or praised for, it can lose its natural appeal. Imagine you love painting, just for the way it feels, the colors, the quiet focus. Then someone offers to pay you for each painting. At first, it feels exciting, but over time, you may notice that painting becomes work. You think about the reward, not the process. You judge what you create more harshly, wondering if it's worth the reward. What once brought joy becomes an obligation. The Overjustification Effect shows up in many places. Children who are rewarded for reading may stop once the rewards end. Employees who are overly incentivized may lose passion for their tasks. Even in relationships, when kindness becomes expected or rewarded, it can feel less genuine, less free. This bias doesn't mean rewards are bad, but it reminds you how fragile inner motivation can be. When you do something because it feels right, because it matters to you, it holds a special place. When that action is tied too tightly to external gain, that place shifts. The mind starts asking, what do I get? Instead of what do I feel? Think gently now about something you once loved, and how it changed when rewards entered. Let that reflection settle softly. As you lie here, there's nothing to earn, nothing to prove. Let your breath be its own reward, simple and full. Let sleep come, freely, for no reason but rest. The illusion of transparency, thinking people know what you feel. You often believe that your thoughts, feelings, and intentions are more visible to others than they actually are. This is the illusion of transparency, a bias where you assume that people can see right through you, that your inner world is obvious, even when it's hidden. You think your nervousness shows, your guilt is clear, your excitement is shining through. But in truth, others see far less than you imagine. When you're anxious, you might believe your hands are shaking visibly, your voice is trembling, and everyone notices. When you're lying, you fear that your eyes, your posture, your words will give you away. But most people are too focused on themselves to pick up on these subtle cues. Your inner experience feels loud, but it often remains silent to others. This bias can create unnecessary self-consciousness. You worry about being judged, exposed, misunderstood, simply because you think your emotions are written all over you. But the truth is, people are not mind readers. What feels intense inside is rarely seen as clearly outside. It also works in reverse. You expect others to understand what you mean, what you want, how you feel, without needing to say it. When they don't, you feel disappointed, as if they should have known, but they didn't see it. The mind forgets how private feelings truly are. Think softly now about a moment when you felt too seen, or not seen at all. Let that thought rest gently. As you lie here, there's no spotlight, no audience. Let your breath be quiet, unnoticed. Let sleep come, where nothing needs to be shown. The halo horn effect. One trait colors all judgments. When you meet someone, one strong impression good or bad, can shape how you see everything else about them. This is the halo horn effect, a bias where one noticeable trait casts a halo or a horn over all other qualities. If someone is attractive, you might assume they're also kind, smart, or talented. If someone is rude once, you might see them as entirely selfish, unfriendly, or cold. The halo effect makes you see people more positively based on a single good trait. The horn effect does the opposite, clouding your view with negativity. It simplifies your judgment, making you believe you know the whole person based on one part. But people are more complex. You might admire someone's confidence, and because of that, trust them more, forgive their flaws, overlook their mistakes. Or you might dislike someone's behavior and ignore their kindness, their efforts, their potential. This bias shapes how you treat others, how you listen, how you react. It also shapes how you see yourself. One success can make you feel capable in all areas. One failure can make you doubt everything. The mind doesn't always separate one from the whole. It blends them. For ease, for certainty. Think softly now about someone you've judged quickly or completely. What did you miss? Let that reflection settle gently. As you lie here, let your judgments fade. Let people, including yourself, be whole, be many things. Let your breath hold both light and shadow. Let sleep come, in quiet balance. Motive attribution asymmetry, they're wrong. I'm right. When conflicts arise, you often believe that your side acts out of love, fairness, or truth, while the other side acts out of hatred, ignorance, or malice. This is motive attribution asymmetry, a bias where you assume the best intentions for yourself or your group, and the worst for others. It fuels misunderstanding, division, and even hostility. You see your actions as justified, necessary, even noble. But when someone else opposes you, their actions seem cruel, selfish, or wrong. This bias makes compromise hard because it frames the other side not just as mistaken, but as morally flawed. It's not just a difference of opinion, it's a battle of good versus bad. This bias appears in politics, relationships, communities. It turns disagreement into conflict, difference into distance. It blinds you to the idea that others also believe they are right, that they too have reasons, fears, hopes, just like you. Think softly now about a time when you saw someone as wrong, entirely. Could their motives have been different than you assumed? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, there's no side, no battle. Let your breath be shared air. Between all things, let sleep come, in quiet unity. Empathy gap, misjudging emotions in yourself and others. There's a distance between how you feel now and how you imagine you'll feel later, or how others feel now. This distance is often invisible, but it shapes your thoughts and choices in powerful ways. It's called the empathy gap, a bias where you struggle to accurately predict emotions, either your own or someone else's, especially when those emotions differ from what you're currently experiencing. When you're calm, it's hard to remember what anger feels like. When you're in pain, it's difficult to imagine being free from it. When you're full, you forget what it's like to be hungry. This gap between emotional states makes you underestimate or misunderstand how feelings affect decisions and actions. You might think, I won't be tempted, or I'll stay strong, when in a different state. But when emotions shift, your control feels different. The empathy gap also affects how you see others. When someone is upset, you might think they're overreacting because you can't feel what they feel. Or when someone struggles, you might believe they should just get over it, forgetting how hard emotions can grip. This gap makes empathy harder. It blocks you from truly connecting with the reality of feelings you aren't currently feeling. This bias can make planning difficult. You think you'll make healthy choices tomorrow, but when the time comes, your current mood takes over. You misjudge the strength of desires, fears, or needs because they don't feel immediate. And when they do arise, you're surprised at their power. Think softly now about a time when you misjudged your own emotions or someone else's. Let that thought rest, without blame. As you lie here, feel the gentle flow between feelings, knowing they come and go. Let your breath move through every state. Calmly, let sleep come, beyond emotion, in peaceful balance. Commitment bias, staying on the wrong path too long. Once you've invested in something, time, energy, belief, it becomes harder to walk away, even when it's no longer right for you. This is commitment bias, the tendency to stick with a decision, relationship, or plan, simply because you've already committed to it. You think, I've come this far, I can't stop now. Or, I've already put so much into this, I have to see it through. Even when continuing brings more loss than gain. This bias is deeply tied to identity and effort. You see quitting as failure, as weakness, as giving up. But sometimes, holding on takes more from you than letting go ever would. Commitment bias makes you loyal to things that no longer serve you. It keeps you chasing a goal that no longer inspires, staying in situations that drain you, repeating actions that no longer fit. You fear wasting what you've invested, so you invest more. Time, money, love, attention, all poured into something that no longer gives back. You believe the value lies in sticking with it, not in reevaluating it. But life changes, and so can you. Think softly now about something you've held onto too long. Let that thought rest gently, without regret. As you lie here, there's no need to hold or release, just be. Let your breath come and go, without attachment. Let sleep come, free from paths, open to peace. The Pollyanna Principle, favoring the pleasant. Your mind tends to focus more on positive experiences than negative ones when recalling the past. This is the Pollyanna Principle, a bias where pleasant memories are remembered more clearly, more often, and with more detail than unpleasant ones. Over time, the hard edges of pain dull, and the bright spots of joy shine through more easily. This bias gives you a hopeful view of your past, often softening its reality. This tendency helps you cope, helps you carry on. By favoring the pleasant, your mind protects you from the weight of hardship. It helps you see your life as worth living, worth remembering, worth continuing. Even difficult periods, when looked at from a distance, may seem lighter, because your mind has gently edited the story. But the Pollyanna Principle can also make you underestimate challenges. You might think, it wasn't that bad, or, I can do it again, forgetting the full weight of what you once carried. It can make you repeat patterns, not out of denial, but because memory is soft and forgiving. This bias shapes how you see yourself. You remember your kindness more than your mistakes, your successes more than your failures. This can give you confidence, or it can blind you to lessons left unlearned. Think softly now about a memory that feels sweeter than it once did. Let it rest gently, knowing it's been shaped by time. As you lie here, let all memories, bright or dim, settle into peace. Let your breath carry both light and shadow. Gently, let sleep come, in quiet warmth. Focusing illusion. What you focus on feels bigger. When something is on your mind, it can take up more space than it truly deserves. This is the focusing illusion, a bias where you overestimate the importance of what you are currently thinking about. You believe, this is everything, when in truth, it's just one part of a much larger whole. The mind zooms in, magnifying one aspect of life, making it feel like the only thing that matters. You see this when worrying about a problem. It feels huge, overwhelming. You can't stop thinking about it, and so it grows in your mind. Or when you're excited about something, a goal, a relationship, it seems like it will change everything. But later, you realize life is broader, more balanced. This bias can distort priorities. It can make small issues feel urgent and big joys feel like permanent solutions. You focus, and in focusing, you forget the rest. The mind narrows, and with it, your view of life. Think softly now about what's taken up space in your mind today. Has it felt bigger than it really is? Let that thought rest gently. As you lie here, let your focus widen. Feel the room, the quiet, your breath. Let everything find its proper place. Let sleep come, beyond focus, in full calm. The authority bias, trusting power without question. When someone in a position of power speaks or acts, you tend to give their words and actions more weight, often without questioning. This is the authority bias, a tendency to believe and follow those who hold authority, simply because of their status, title, or perceived expertise. The doctor's advice feels more valid than a friend's, even if both say the same thing. A leader's opinion feels more trustworthy than your own, even when your instincts whisper otherwise. This bias comes from a deep-rooted need for guidance. In complex or uncertain situations, it's comforting to rely on someone who seems to know more, who seems to have the answers. It feels safer to defer, to believe that those in charge must know better. And often, they do have knowledge or experience that can help. But authority bias can make you ignore flaws, dismiss doubts, or follow blindly. You might see this in medical advice, legal opinions, workplace dynamics. You might also feel it in how you view public figures, experts, even social influencers. Their position makes their words seem heavier, more important. But authority does not guarantee truth. Experts can be wrong, leaders can mislead, and your own judgment remains important, even in the presence of power. Authority bias can silence your inner voice. It can make you doubt yourself, simply because someone above you said otherwise. It can also make you forgive mistakes, overlook harm, or accept ideas without fully understanding them. Respect for authority is natural, but trust should be earned, not assumed. Think softly now about a time when you followed authority without question. What did it feel like? How did it shape your actions? Let that reflection rest gently. As you lie here, know that you are your own guide tonight. Let your breath be your calm leader, steady and sure. Let sleep come, beyond rank, beyond power, in quiet trust. The spotlight effect, believing everyone is watching. You often feel like all eyes are on you, that others notice your mistakes, your appearance, your every move. This is the spotlight effect, a bias where you overestimate how much others are paying attention to you. You think that a stumble, a wrong word, or a small flaw is obvious to everyone. But the truth is, most people are too focused on themselves to notice you in the way you think. Imagine wearing something new and feeling self-conscious, believing everyone will judge, or saying something awkward and assuming people will remember. These thoughts make you feel exposed, as if a spotlight follows you everywhere. But in reality, others are caught in their own spotlights, worried about their own actions, not yours. This bias can make you anxious, cautious, even withdrawn. It can stop you from taking risks, from speaking freely, from showing who you are. It amplifies your sense of being watched, when really, most people glance and move on. Your mistakes are not as big as they feel. Your presence is not as scrutinized as you imagine. The spotlight effect also hides your freedom, the freedom to act, to try, to be imperfect. When you let go of the belief that everyone is watching, you find space to breathe, to exist without constant judgment. Think softly now about a time you felt watched, but later realized no one noticed. Let that memory rest gently. As you lie here, know that the spotlight is gone. You are unseen, safe, free. Let your breath ease you into the shadows, where you can rest fully. Let sleep come, in peace, without eyes upon you. Self-serving bias, taking credit but shifting blame. When things go well, you credit yourself. When things go wrong, you blame something else. This is the self-serving bias, a tendency to see successes as a result of your own actions, but failures as caused by external factors. It protects your self-esteem, helping you feel competent, capable, and strong. But it can also blind you to growth, to truth. You win a game and think, I'm skilled. You lose and think, the conditions were unfair. You get praised and feel proud. You get criticized and feel misunderstood. This bias keeps your self-image intact, shielding you from the pain of failure. But in doing so, it also keeps you from seeing the full picture. Self-serving bias shows up in relationships, in work, in daily life. It helps you feel good, but it can harm understanding. It makes you take too much credit or too little responsibility. It can make you hard on others, expecting them to own their mistakes while you explain away yours. This bias isn't about dishonesty. It's about protection. But growth comes from seeing clearly, both your part in success and in struggle. Think softly now about a moment when you shifted blame. How would it feel to hold it gently? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, there's no need for credit, no need for blame. Let your breath balance both. In quiet truth, let sleep come, without defense. The curse of knowledge, forgetting what it's like not to know. Once you've learned something, it becomes hard to remember what it felt like before you knew it. This is the curse of knowledge, a bias where you struggle to imagine not knowing what you now know. It makes teaching, explaining, and understanding others harder, because you can't fully grasp their confusion or their questions. You forget how learning begins, with not knowing. When you explain something you understand, it seems simple to you, but complicated to others. You might think, why don't they get it? Forgetting how long it took you to learn. You assume others share your knowledge, your experience, your understanding, but they don't. They are on their own path, just as you once were. This bias can create frustration. It can make you impatient, distant, or dismissive, but it can also be softened by remembering what it felt like to learn, to ask, to struggle. Think softly now about something you know well. How did you learn it? Who helped you? Let that memory rest. As you lie here, let go of needing to know, needing to teach. Let your breath be simple, easy, free. Let sleep come, in the peace of unknowing. Defensive attribution, blaming others to feel safer. There is a quiet fear that lives beneath every unexpected tragedy, the fear that it could happen to you. When you hear about an accident, a misfortune, or someone else's pain, your first instinct might not be sympathy, but a subtle need to understand why it happened to them. This need often leads to defensive attribution, a psychological bias where you blame the victim, not out of cruelty, but out of a need to protect yourself. You think, they must have done something wrong, or that wouldn't happen to me because I would never make that mistake. By believing that the victim caused their own suffering, you convince yourself that you are safe, that you are in control. This bias gives you a false sense of security. It helps you believe that the world is just, that bad things only happen to those who deserve it, or to those who are careless. If you follow the rules, if you stay cautious, then nothing bad will happen to you. This is the comforting story defensive attribution tells. But in truth, life doesn't always work that way. Accidents happen, good people suffer, and sometimes there is no one to blame. You may have caught yourself thinking this way when you heard about a car crash, a serious illness, or someone's financial ruin. Instead of feeling vulnerable, you look for reasons why they are different from you. You create distance. You shield yourself. But this shield can also separate you from compassion, from understanding. It can make you harsh, judgmental, isolated. Think softly now about a time when you blamed someone for their pain. Was it truly their fault? Or were you trying to feel safe? Let that thought rest gently, without judgment. As you lie here, know that you don't have to explain every event. Not everything has a reason. Let your breath move gently, in and out, accepting the unknown. Let sleep come, free from blame, free from fear. The gambler's fallacy, believing chance has a memory. Imagine flipping a coin, and it lands on heads 5 times in a row. You begin to feel, with growing certainty, that the next flip must be tails. This feeling is the heart of the gambler's fallacy, the mistaken belief that past random events influence future ones, especially in games of chance. You think that luck must balance out, that a losing streak will turn into a winning one, or that after too much good, something bad must happen. But randomness doesn't have a memory. Each flip, each roll, each draw stands alone, untouched by what came before. The coin doesn't know it's landed on heads 5 times. The dice don't care how they fell yesterday. Yet your mind seeks patterns, even in chaos. It craves fairness, order, predictability. This bias leads you to make choices based on false patterns. You bet more, believing a win is due. You worry, believing a loss must come. You feel relief or fear, based on nothing more than a sequence of unrelated events. And in life beyond gambling, this fallacy affects how you view luck, fate, and fortune. You may believe that after hard times, good must come, or that too much joy invites sorrow. You prepare for balance that doesn't exist, missing the truth of the present. Think softly now about a time when you felt owed by chance. Did luck ever truly listen? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, let go of patterns. Let go of counting. Let your breath be your only rhythm, steady and free. Let sleep come, beyond chance, in calm surrender. Illusion of control, thinking you influence what you don't. You like to believe that you have control over your life, over outcomes, over the little things that shape your days. This belief gives you comfort, direction, and purpose. But sometimes, this belief stretches beyond what's real. This is known as the illusion of control, a bias where you think your actions, thoughts, or rituals can influence events that are mostly or entirely out of your hands. You see this when athletes wear lucky socks, when people avoid stepping on cracks, or when you feel that if you think positively enough, things will go your way. It shows up when you blame yourself for something you couldn't have prevented, or when you feel guilty for not doing more, even though the outcome was never really yours to decide. This illusion helps you cope. It makes the world feel manageable, but it can also lead to frustration, disappointment, and unnecessary pressure. When things go wrong, you wonder what you did to cause it. When things go right, you believe you controlled it all. In truth, much of life unfolds beyond your will. You influence, but you don't command. You guide, but you don't rule. Letting go of this illusion doesn't mean giving up. It means finding peace in doing your best and accepting what comes. Think softly now about something you've tried to control. Let that effort rest. As you lie here, let your breath move gently, freely. Let sleep come, without needing to control it. Without force, just trust. False consensus effect. Believing everyone thinks like you. You often walk through life believing that your thoughts, values, and opinions are common, shared by most people. This is the false consensus effect, a bias where you overestimate how much others agree with you. It feels natural to think, everyone sees it this way, or most people would do what I did. This belief makes you feel connected, validated, and confident. But in truth, people are far more varied than your mind assumes. You notice this when you're surprised by disagreement. When someone challenges your view, you feel shocked, maybe even defensive. How can they not understand, you wonder? But they have their own experiences, their own truths. The false consensus effect makes you forget that. This bias can make you less curious. If you believe others think like you don't ask, you don't explore. It can also lead to conflict. As you struggle to see why someone would act differently, you see their choices as wrong, not just different. Think softly now about a time when you felt alone because others didn't agree, or when you assumed you were right, simply because you believed you weren't alone. Let that thought rest gently. As you lie here, let your breath connect you, not through sameness, but through shared humanness. Let sleep come, beyond agreement, in quiet acceptance. Survivorship bias, only seeing the winners. When you look around at stories of success, it's easy to think that success is common, that hard work always pays off, and that determination alone leads to victory. You hear about the startups that became billion-dollar companies, the athletes who made it to the top, or the students who aced every exam. But what you don't hear about are the many who tried just as hard and didn't make it. This is survivorship bias, a bias where you focus on those who survived a process and ignore those who didn't, leading you to believe that success is more likely than it really is. You see the winners, the survivors, the best. They are visible. Their stories are told, celebrated, admired. But behind them are countless others who faced the same challenges and failed, not because they were less worthy, but because success also depends on timing, chance, and other factors beyond control. Survivorship bias hides these stories, making you think that the path to success is clear, if only you try hard enough. This bias can make you overconfident, taking risks based on the illusion that success is common. Or it can make you feel like a failure if you don't achieve what others have, forgetting how many don't. You don't see the full picture. You only see the tip of the iceberg, the ones who made it, not the many who didn't. Think softly now about a time you judged yourself by the stories of success around you. Let that pressure rest. As you lie here, remember that value isn't only in winning. Let your breath remind you of your worth, present and full. Let sleep come. Beyond survival, in gentle peace, planning fallacy, underestimating time and effort. You often think you can do more in less time. You believe that the project will take a day. The journey will be quick. The task will be simple. But as time passes, things take longer. Effort stretches. And you find yourself wondering why you didn't finish when you thought you would. This is the planning fallacy, a bias where you underestimate how much time, effort, and complexity are involved in completing something, even if you've done similar things before. The mind loves optimism. It focuses on the best-case scenario, imagining that everything will go smoothly. You think, I won't be distracted, or I won't face any problems. And so you plan with the most hopeful version of events. But life rarely unfolds perfectly. Interruptions happen, energy fades, and tasks reveal hidden layers. Even when experience tells you to expect delays, you still plan tightly, still believe this time will be different. The planning fallacy doesn't come from laziness. It comes from hope, from wanting things to be easier than they are. This bias can lead to stress, missed deadlines, or feelings of failure. But it can also teach you to be kind to yourself, to plan with space, to allow room for the unexpected. Think softly now about something that took longer than you thought. Let that memory rest gently. As you lie here, know that time is not your enemy. Let your breath follow its own pace, slow and steady. Let sleep come, in its own time, unhurried. Hindsight bias, thinking you knew it all along. After something happens, it's easy to look back and think you saw it coming. You say, I knew that would happen, or it was obvious all along. This is the hindsight bias, the tendency to believe, after the fact, that events were more predictable than they really were. The mind reshapes memory, smoothing the path from past to present, making what happened feel inevitable. You might look at a decision, a relationship, or a world event, and think you always knew it would end this way. But before it happened, the future was uncertain, full of possibilities. Hindsight bias erases that uncertainty, making you believe you had more foresight than you did. This bias affects how you learn, how you judge yourself, and how you see others. It can make you critical of past choices, thinking, I should have known better, when in truth, you couldn't have. It can also make you dismiss how surprising life can be, reducing complex events to simple stories. Hindsight bias comforts you, making the world feel more understandable. But it can also close your mind to the richness of unpredictability. Think softly now about something you thought was obvious in hindsight. How did it really feel before you knew the outcome? Let that uncertainty rest with you. As you lie here, let go of needing to know, needing to predict. Let your breath hold both the known and the unknown. Let sleep come, beyond certainty.
Status quo bias, preferring things to stay the same. Change can be unsettling. Even when you know something isn't right, even when you believe something better is possible, there's a strong pull to leave things as they are. This is status quo bias. a tendency to prefer the current state of affairs simply because it's familiar. You think, it's not perfect, but at least I know it. Or, why risk change when this works? The mind finds comfort in the known. Change means uncertainty, effort, and possible loss. The current situation, no matter how flawed, feels safe because it's predictable. This bias can keep you in jobs you don't love, relationships that no longer grow, habits that no longer serve. It whispers, stay, even when your heart says, go. Status quo bias protects you from discomfort, but it can also keep you from growth. It makes you weigh the risks of change more heavily than the risks of staying the same. It makes you believe that what is now is better than what might be. Think softly now about something you've held on to, simply because it was familiar. Let that thought rest gently. As you lie here, know that you don't have to change tonight. Let your breath be your constant, soothing and sure. Let sleep come in the peace of the present. Pro-innovation bias. Believing new is always better. Whenever something new is introduced, a technology, a method, an idea, it often feels exciting, promising, even revolutionary. There's a strong tendency to believe that new things are automatically better, more efficient, or more effective than what came before. This is known as pro-innovation bias, a psychological bias where you overvalue new ideas or innovations simply because they are new and undervalue the old, even if the older option still works well. You may notice this bias when a new phone is released, and suddenly your current one feels outdated, even though it still functions perfectly. Or when a new diet, a new productivity method, or a new piece of software promises to change everything, and you rush to adopt it without fully considering its true benefits or possible flaws. This bias is fueled by hope, by the allure of progress, and by a cultural obsession with the future. Out with the old, in with the new, becomes not just a phrase, but a mindset. Yet, not all innovation leads to improvement. Some changes complicate what was once simple. Some advancements solve one problem, but create another. Pro-innovation bias can make you adopt new ideas too quickly without proper reflection or testing. It can also make you abandon things that are still useful, reliable, or even better suited to your needs, just because they feel old. This bias also shows up in how you view others. Younger voices might be favored, older wisdom overlooked. New trends in thinking might seem more enlightened, while older perspectives are dismissed as outdated. Yet, value doesn't lie in time. It lies in relevance, in truth, in fit. Think softly now about something new you embraced too quickly. Did it serve you, or simply dazzle you? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, know that new and old can both hold worth. Let your breath carry both, what's fresh and what's familiar. Let sleep come, without rushing forward, without leaving the past behind, just resting in now. The Semmelweis Reflex, rejecting new ideas too quickly. Sometimes, when you are faced with new information or ideas that challenge what you've always believed, your first reaction is not curiosity, but rejection. This is known as the Semmelweis Reflex, a bias where you instinctively dismiss new knowledge because it contradicts established beliefs or norms. This response is not about the truth of the idea, but about how uncomfortable it feels to change your thinking. The name comes from Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis, a 19th century physician who discovered that hand-washing dramatically reduced deaths in hospitals. Yet, his ideas were rejected by his peers, not because they were wrong, but because they went against medical beliefs of the time. It was easier to dismiss him than to question the system. This bias appears whenever you resist change, not because of facts, but because of fear, pride, or habit. It shows up when new science challenges old methods, when new voices speak truths that feel hard to hear, when progress asks you to rethink what you've known. You might have felt this when someone offered you advice that didn't match your view, or when a new method at work or in life seemed strange, and you pushed it aside without giving it a fair chance. The mind prefers comfort. It prefers stability. New ideas disrupt that. The Semmelweis Reflex can block growth, can keep you stuck in outdated patterns, but awareness softens its grip. Think softly now about an idea you've rejected quickly. What if you had paused? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, let your breath open space for newness, without fear. Let sleep come, gently, into the quiet of curiosity. Hyperbolic discounting, choosing now over later. You often face choices between something small and immediate, or something bigger and delayed. And many times you choose the now. This is hyperbolic discounting, a bias where you give stronger weight to immediate rewards over future ones, even when waiting would give you more. You think, I want it now, and the value of later fades. This bias shapes daily life. Eating the treat instead of waiting for a healthier meal. Spending money now instead of saving for something bigger. Skipping a task for rest, even though doing it now would ease tomorrow. The present feels vivid, the future distant. Your mind is wired for immediacy. The future is uncertain, abstract, hard to imagine. Now is real, tangible, rewarding. Hyperbolic discounting gives you pleasure now, but can lead to regret later, as the future becomes the present and the cost becomes clear. This bias doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're human. But recognizing it helps you make different choices. Helps you pause. Think softly now about a time you chose now over later. What did it bring? Let that thought rest gently. As you lie here, there's no need to choose, no rush. Let your breath carry you, moment by moment. Let sleep come, not now, not later, just as it will. Reactance, resisting control, even when it helps. When someone tells you what to do, even if it's good advice, part of you may resist. You feel the push and instinctively push back. This is reactance, a bias where you resist suggestions, rules, or restrictions simply because they feel like a threat to your freedom. You think, I'll decide for myself, and sometimes ignore what's best just to feel in control. This bias is strongest when you feel pressured. The more forceful the advice, the more you resist. It shows up in small ways, ignoring health advice, rejecting help, doing the opposite of what's asked. It's not always about the content, it's about the feeling of being controlled. Reactance protects your autonomy. It defends your right to choose. But it can also make you act against your interests, turning away from support, from guidance, from care. Think softly now about a time you resisted, just to stay free. What did you protect? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, know that freedom lives within, not in defiance. Let your breath move freely, without push, without pull. Let sleep come, as your own choice in peace. Anchoring bias. Getting stuck on the first piece of information. When you make decisions or judgments, the first piece of information you receive often shapes everything that follows. This is known as the anchoring bias, a psychological tendency to rely too heavily on the first detail, number, or idea offered when making choices. Even when you receive more information later, your mind stays anchored to the first thing it heard, using it as a reference point for everything else. Imagine you're shopping for a jacket, and the first one you see is priced at $500. It feels expensive. Then you see another for $300, and suddenly it seems like a good deal, even if $300 is still more than you planned to spend. The $500 price has anchored your sense of value. It becomes the standard by which all other prices are judged, even if it has no real bearing on what the jacket is worth to you. Anchoring happens in many areas of life. In negotiations, whoever makes the first offer often controls the range of the discussion. In decisions, the first fact you learn can shape your entire opinion, even if it's incomplete or biased. The mind clings to that starting point, and adjustments afterward tend to be small, even when bigger shifts are needed. This bias can limit your ability to think freely. It narrows your focus, keeping you tied to something that may not deserve such weight. Anchoring gives you a sense of stability, a place to start, but it can also keep you from seeing the broader picture. Think softly now about a time when you were influenced by a first impression or a first number. How did it shape your thoughts? Let that reflection rest gently. As you lie here, let go of the need to hold on to beginnings. Let your breath flow, fresh with each inhale, free with each exhale. Let sleep come, without anchors, in peaceful drift. The IKEA Effect, valuing what you build. There's a special pride that comes from creating something with your own hands. Even if it's imperfect, even if it's simple, you feel a deep connection to it. This is the IKEA Effect, a bias where you place higher value on things you've helped to build or create, simply because of the effort you put in. The name comes from the way people often love IKEA furniture more than higher quality pieces, just because they assembled it themselves. This bias is rooted in ownership, in effort, in meaning. When you invest your time and energy into something, it becomes part of you. A cake you bake yourself tastes better. A plan you design feels smarter. A project you complete, even with flaws, feels more successful. The work makes it valuable, not necessarily to others, but to you. The IKEA Effect can inspire you to take pride in your efforts, to cherish what you've built. But it can also blind you to better options. You might hold on to ideas, products, or decisions simply because you made them, even when they no longer serve you. This bias also affects relationships and work. You value people and tasks where you've invested deeply. Letting go feels like wasting that effort. But sometimes release brings freedom. Think softly now about something you've held dear because you created it. Let that thought rest. As you lie here, honor your efforts, but know you can rest. Let your breath be effortless, flowing. Let sleep come, needing nothing to build, only to be. Risk aversion, fearing loss more than hoping for gain. When faced with a choice between something safe and something uncertain, even if the uncertain choice might bring more reward, you often choose safety. This is risk aversion, a bias where the fear of losing outweighs the excitement of winning. You think, what if I fail? More loudly then, what if I succeed? This bias is deeply rooted in survival. Losing something, money, time, status, love, feels more painful than gaining those things feels good. The mind magnifies potential loss, warning you to avoid it. You might pass up opportunities, avoid challenges, or stay in comfort zones, all to protect what you have. Risk aversion can keep you safe, but it can also keep you small. It can stop you from growing, from trying, from discovering. You weigh the worst-case scenario more heavily than the best case, and so you choose the known over the unknown, even when the unknown might bring joy. This bias shows up in work, in relationships, in dreams. It whispers caution, even when your heart seeks more. Think softly now about a time when fear held you back. Let that fear rest. As you lie here, there is no risk, no choice. Let your breath soothe you, safe and steady. Let sleep come, without fear, in quiet trust. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. Thinking you know more than you do. Sometimes the less you know about something, the more confident you feel about it. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect, a bias where people with low ability or knowledge in a certain area overestimate their competence. When you know a little, it feels like a lot because you don't yet see the full depth of the subject. Confidence comes easily because ignorance hides complexity. At the start of learning something new, you quickly grasp the basics and feel empowered. But as you learn more, you realize how much you don't know. Confidence dips and humility grows. Experts, who see the full landscape, often doubt themselves more than beginners do because they understand the limits of their knowledge. This bias can make you act too boldly, dismiss advice, or make mistakes. But it's also part of learning. Awareness grows over time. Think softly now about something you once thought you knew, but later saw more clearly. Let that journey rest. As you lie here, there's no need to know, no need to prove. Let your breath be your wisdom, simple and deep. Let sleep come, beyond knowing, in peaceful humility. Confirmation bias. Only seeing what you want to see. There's a quiet force in your mind that pushes you to notice only what agrees with you. This is called confirmation bias, a psychological habit where you seek out information that supports what you already believe and ignore or dismiss anything that doesn't. It's comforting to think, I was right all along. So, without realizing it, you build a world that reflects your views, your opinions, your truths, even if they're incomplete. When you read the news, you're more likely to click on articles that match your beliefs. When someone disagrees with you, you might stop listening or assume they're wrong without really considering their side. Your mind quickly accepts what feels familiar and resists what feels challenging. It's not that you don't care about truth. It's that your mind is trying to protect your identity, your sense of self. Confirmation bias shows up in relationships too. If you think someone doesn't like you, you'll notice every small sign that proves it and miss the moments when they're kind. If you believe you're not good at something, you'll focus on every failure and ignore the progress you make. You build evidence for what you already believe without even meaning to. This bias limits growth. It can make you miss opportunities to learn, to connect, to see the full picture. It keeps you in a bubble where only one view is allowed to thrive. Think gently now about a time when you refused to see something because it didn't fit your beliefs. What might have changed if you'd looked closer? Let that thought rest softly. As you lie here, there's no need to defend, no need to prove. Let your breath open space for both sides, for all truths. Let sleep come, free from the need to be right. Availability heuristic, letting the loudest memory decide. When you think about how likely something is, your mind often grabs the most vivid, recent, or emotional example it can find. This is called the availability heuristic, a mental shortcut where you judge the frequency or importance of something based on how easily you can recall it. The more striking the memory, the more real or common it feels, even if it's rare. If you hear about a plane crash, Suddenly flying feels dangerous, even though it's still statistically safe. If someone you know gets sick, you start worrying about your own health, even if nothing has changed. The mind clings to what's loud, not what's likely. This can make you fear things that aren't as risky as they seem, and overlook things that are quietly common. The availability heuristic doesn't just influence fear, it shapes all decisions. If you recently heard of someone winning a lottery, buying a ticket feels more promising. If a friend succeeded at something, it feels more possible for you too, even if the odds are the same. Your mind uses recent memories as shortcuts, but shortcuts can mislead. This bias also narrows your perspective. You focus on what's easy to remember, what stands out, and miss the steady, quiet patterns that shape your world. Think softly now about something that felt bigger or scarier just because it was fresh in your mind. Let that memory rest, gently. As you lie here, let go of the loud, let go of the vivid. Let your breath be your guide, steady and true. Let sleep come, beyond memory and peace. The halo effect, letting one good thing define everything. There's a glow that sometimes surrounds people in your mind, a glow created by one good trait that makes everything else about them seem better. This is the halo effect, a bias where one positive feature like attractiveness, intelligence, or kindness colors your entire view of someone. You think, they're beautiful, so they must be smart. Or, they're confident, so they must be trustworthy. One light shines over all. This bias simplifies your world. It helps you decide quickly who to trust, who to admire, who to follow. But it also makes you miss the details. You might overlook flaws, ignore warnings, or expect too much because the halo blinds you. You forget that people are complex, strong in some ways, weak in others. The halo effect also shapes how you see yourself. If you succeed in one area, you might believe you're better in all others. If people praise you, you start to believe in a version of yourself that's only part of the truth. This can bring confidence, but it can also create pressure to live up to an image. In relationships, this bias can cause disappointment. When the glow fades, you're left wondering who the person really is. Or it can make you stay too long, holding on to the light you first saw. Think softly now about someone you've placed in a halo. What have you missed? Let that thought settle. As you lie here, let people be whole, good and flawed, bright and dim. Let your breath hold the truth of complexity. Let sleep come, in quiet balance. Negativity bias, holding on to the bad more than the good. Your mind is more sensitive to negative experiences than to positive ones. This is the negativity bias, a natural tendency to give more weight to bad events, bad emotions, and bad memories than to good ones. A single harsh word can echo in your mind longer than many kind ones. One mistake can stay with you, even after many successes. This bias helped your ancestors survive. Paying attention to threats, dangers, and failures kept them safe. But today, it can make you anxious, self-critical, or stuck. You replay what went wrong, what you lost, what hurt. You prepare for problems, even when things are going well. Negativity bias shapes how you see yourself and others. You might doubt your worth, even when you do well. You might focus on someone's flaws, even when they show kindness. The bad feels heavier, more real. But you can soften this bias by noticing the good, holding it longer, letting it in. The mind needs reminders that not everything is danger, not everything is loss. Think softly now about something good that you've overlooked. Let it come forward. Let it stay. As you lie here, let the weight of the bad lift, just a little. Let your breath be kind, gentle. Let sleep come, with more light than shadow. Just world hypothesis, believing that life is always fair. Deep inside, many people hold on to the idea that the world is fair, that good things happen to good people, and bad things happen to those who somehow deserve it. This belief brings comfort, making life feel orderly, predictable, and safe. This is the just world hypothesis, a psychological bias where you assume that justice always prevails, and everyone gets what they deserve. It's the reason why people often think, if I do the right thing, nothing bad will happen to me. Or, they must have done something wrong to end up like that. This bias helps reduce fear. It allows you to believe that by following certain rules, you can avoid misfortune. You feel more in control, more secure. But the just world hypothesis also has a darker side. When you see someone suffering, your mind might search for reasons why they deserved it, not out of cruelty, but to maintain the belief that the world is still fair. You might think they should have been more careful, or they made poor choices, even when their suffering was random or undeserved. This way of thinking can create distance between you and others. Instead of feeling empathy, you judge. Instead of offering support, you protect yourself with blame. But life is often unfair. Good people face hardship. Bad people sometimes succeed. The world isn't always balanced, and not every event has a clear reason. The just world hypothesis also shapes how you view your own experiences. When something bad happens to you, you might feel shame thinking, "What did I do to cause this?" You might blame yourself unnecessarily, searching for mistakes where there were none. This self-blame can be heavy, isolating you in times when you need compassion. Think softly now about a moment in your life when things felt unfair. How did you make sense of it? Did you search for reasons, or allow yourself to sit with the mystery? Let that reflection rest gently with you. As you lie here, release the need to explain everything. Let your breath carry both justice and chance, both cause and chaos. Let sleep come, without the weight of fairness, in gentle acceptance. False memory bias. When your mind remembers what never was, your memory feels like a diary, a record of the past. You believe it tells the truth, that it holds what really happened. But sometimes memory is not a mirror. It's a painting, touched by emotions, suggestions, and time. This is the false memory bias, a tendency for your mind to create memories of events that never happened, or to alter the details of real ones without you realizing it. You might recall a childhood event that didn't happen the way you remember. You might believe you had a conversation that never took place. You're sure, absolutely sure, but the memory isn't accurate. False memories feel just as real as true ones. They're vivid, detailed, and confident. They're not lies. They're creations, formed by the mind trying to make sense of gaps, or by hearing others' stories and blending them into your own. This bias can shape your relationships. You might argue about what was said, each person sure of their version, not realizing both memories are flawed. It can shape how you see yourself, as your past becomes a mixture of fact and fiction. Over time, memories shift, not because you want them to, but because the mind is fluid, not fixed. False memory bias can also make you hold on to guilt, pain, or pride based on events that didn't happen as you believe. It can comfort, but it can also harm. Think softly now about a memory you've always believed. What if it wasn't quite as you recall? Let that thought rest, not in doubt, but in curiosity. As you lie here, know that you are more than your memories. Let your breath guide you, here, now. Let sleep come, beyond the past, in peaceful stillness. Outcome bias. Judging choices by how things turned out. It's natural to look at the results of something and use that to judge whether the decision that led to it was good or bad. If things turned out well, the decision must have been right. If things went wrong, it must have been a mistake. This is the outcome bias, a mental habit where you evaluate decisions not by the process or the reasoning behind them, but by their outcomes, which are often shaped by luck, chance, or factors beyond control. You see this in daily life. A risky decision that led to success is praised, even if it was reckless. A careful, thoughtful choice that failed is criticized, even if it was the best option at the time. The mind simplifies: good result, good decision; bad result, bad decision. But life is more complex. This bias can lead you to fear making decisions, as you overfocus on the potential for bad outcomes. It can make you judge yourself harshly for things that didn't turn out well, even when you made the best choice you could. It can also make you repeat mistakes, trusting in lucky outcomes instead of solid reasoning. Outcome bias hides the value of process. It keeps you chasing results and missing lessons. Think softly now about a decision you've regretted, only because of how it ended. What if you looked at the choice, not just the result? Let that reflection rest gently. As you lie here, release the need for perfect outcomes. Let your breath hold you in the value of trying. Let sleep come, beyond success or failure. Reciprocity bias. Feeling obliged to repay kindness. When someone gives you something, a gift, a favor, even a compliment, you feel a quiet pull to give something back. This is the reciprocity bias, a deep human tendency to repay kindness, to return favors, to keep balance in relationships. This instinct builds trust, strengthens bonds, and helps societies thrive. But sometimes it creates pressure, a sense of owing, even when the gift was freely given. You see this in social situations. Someone helps you, and you feel you must help them in return. Someone offers generosity, and you feel uncomfortable until you've matched it. This bias can lead to beautiful exchanges of care, but it can also be used against you. Marketers use it when they offer small free gifts, knowing you'll feel more likely to buy. People may do something for you, not from kindness, but to create obligation. Reciprocity bias can make giving feel heavy and receiving feel like a debt. But true kindness doesn't demand repayment. Think softly now about a time when you felt pressured to give back. Was it joy or obligation? Let that thought rest. As you lie here, let go of owing. Let your breath be freely given and freely received. Let sleep come with nothing to repay.